he evoked the authority of that spirit. And so when the spirit had an opportunity to do something to him, he said, Lord, your prophet said that I can do this thing to him. He believed it when I wrote those words. He said I can do this. And so then the driver of the truck probably got either the demon put him to sleep and then cranked the wheel, either the demon, possessed the man and he blacked out. He was either drinking or whatever. And so drunk driving, this is like a perfect example. Like, you're evoking a spirit the alcohol is drinking from the realm of the dead. So alcohol is alcohol. It means body eating spirit, right? So like if you drink it, it's from the realm of the dead. It's like, what is alcohol? It's rotted juice, bro. It's rotting, decaying juice. Just like if you take mushrooms, what do those grow out of? They grow out of poop. Like, it's like, and then you go into hallucinate. That's from the realm of the dead. If you consume things from the realm of the dead, you're evoking spirits. It's bringing you closer to death, and it allows you to be more utilized. So you drink alcohol, and then the demons can more easily control your body.
I'm an exorcist. I literally pray demons off of people. And I'm also a bit of a historian as well as a demonologist. Now, this is not a title anyone should strive to be. I have studied demons way, way too much, and it is not something that any Christian should look into too deeply.
Could the gods that these people spoke of, could they actually be the sons of God?
It is by God's grace that I was able to study this much about demons and not be killed or something worse happen to me.
A lot of people are skeptical of spiritual encounters until it happens to them.
Like, that's not a shadow.
I grew up in church, but anytime I heard spiritual things, I was likely to raise an eyebrow, like say, really, did that really happen?
Oh my gosh, that's a three-dimensional person standing in my room. And it was so frightening. And the moment I realized it, it sort of turned its head and looked up at me. And I just remember all the breath in my body just leaving me. Like, it was terrifying.
When the angels show up on earth and appear to people, they're just described as men. But for some reason, people know that they're angels.
By God's grace, I'm here now to share and expose the world of demons and angels so that way people can understand the truth and know what's really going on.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely immense.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they're controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us modern day slaves. And everybody's just walking around, heading the clouds, and wanna wake up to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days. Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government released.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is TopLobsta, the father of disinformation. And our guest today, who is one of the co-creators on that super dope intro that we just played. I love it, honestly. It's a great trailer for the documentary Ancient Aliens. Joining us, I'm sorry, Ancient Angels. You can
Ancient
see
Angels. Be careful,
Ancient
David.
Angels.
Don't get him
not
sued.
those people. Don't get, yeah. Also, we don't want to be associated with them. Joining us today is Bryan of Demon Erasers. Bryan, if you could, let the people know where they can find your work and what it is that you focus on. Oh, I think you're muted.
You're muted.
Bryan. Okay, so yeah, good. Sure, you guys can find some of my stuff at demonerasers.com. And there you go. You knew that I was going to pull the website up. Yeah, there's a bunch of content. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It's just Demon Erasers on all that stuff. And I've got some resources. I've got like a little book that I've written on there that people can find some stuff. And I've got, I pray for people. I'm an exorcist basically, so people go on there and there's my origins of Christmas traditions. It's pretty dark. Talks about like the truth about like where all the Christian Christmas traditions actually come from, which is basically,
you're that guy. You're the guy that ruins Christmas for us.
I'm basically the guy, dude. Yeah, and then like it's great because you can like download it; it's free, or you, like print it out and then give it to people. I like it. I gave it to people as a Christmas gift. And so they're like, oh yeah, here's a Christmas gift. They open it, and they're just like, this is thank you. And they're like, what is this? They're like. It's like really funny.
It's the thought that counts. We'll have to call you back around Christmas time because last season we were looking for somebody to ruin Christmas for us.
Oh, man, dude, bring me on, bro. It's all Nephilim, by the way. Side note, Christmas is literally tied to Nephilim traditions in like the most insane ways that you wouldn't even recognize. Yeah. There's so much to it, and it's really mind-blowing how many things are tied to Nephilim stuff. So this is what I do. Talk about Nephilim stuff. Talk about and cast out demons, and I pray for people like every Saturday. I pray all day, so if people need prayer that have demonic oppression, demonic possession stuff, like I deal with that on a regular basis.
That's an awesome thing and a heavy load to carry. And I typically I let Top he always opens up the questions for the guests for us, but I think he's gonna agree with me. We both kind of want to know what gets one started down this path. There's got to be
exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, dude. There's got to be like a pivotal moment or something like that that sends you down this path. I don't think this is something that people take upon lightly.
Yeah, no. I mean, the studying of Nephilim stuff. There was a pivotal moment that explained that to me, and that's in the movie Ancient Angels. If you guys want to check that out, then that kind of explains that component where I, as a child, physically saw an entity, a demon, if you will. But I didn't believe that that's what it was because I wasn't a Christian and I wasn't, the thing appeared to me and it was like a shadow person. And, I started searching truth, try to find answers, went to a bunch of churches. Some people told me, oh, it's a demon. I'm like, well, what's a demon? They're like, oh, it's evil. I'm like, well, I had never gone to church had I never seen this thing. So sounds kind of like a counterproductive demon. You're telling me it's evil, but I never believed in God until I saw this thing. So like, that's stupid. It's not a demon.
Well, which caused a problem too, Bryan? It's like you have this profound experience and you go to a source that's supposed to be an authority on the topic, and all they can tell you is just rather reductive things. It's a demon. Well, what's a demon? It's evil. Well, what is
exactly
it? It's an evil demon. You're like, okay, great. I came to you for answers. Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And I couldn't get the answers. So that's when I started searching. So from the age of like 11, I have been researching demons and Nephilim, and I came into the occultic books. I started studying the occult stuff. I started studying like witchcraft stuff. I started like just looking into it for knowledge, which is evil, and you shouldn't be doing these things, by the way. But I did it just for whatever reason because I was curious, and the Lord just like thankfully guided my path the whole time. And then I started studying all this evil stuff and figured out the Book of Enoch. Started reading this at like a very young age. And started researching things connected to it, studied so much about Nephilim, but I thought it was fairy tales, guys. I thought this was like make-believe. And I just thought it was like, okay, maybe it's real, but like, where are the demons at? Because they're invisible. So like, maybe they're all dead. Maybe they've all been exorcised and gone into another realm of existence. And so like, maybe I just saw one. And that was the driving factor. I didn't actually believe demons were inhabiting people today. I thought that was like a silly idea. So studied all this stuff. And then eventually it got to a pivotal point in my life where, I was living kind of a paganistic lifestyle. I was like not good, relationship wise. I've never drank a drop of alcohol. The Lord just told me not to for some reason. I just never did. And I've never done a drug. I've never smoked a cigarette, never done weed. I've never done any of these things because I knew by studying the occult that I knew what it was. And so something in me just said, hey, don't touch that. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. That, like, my friends all did it. Totally fine. I was still hedonistic in relationships and other, girls and stuff or whatever. But but that sort of behavior I thought was excusable because it was like, well, David, he had multiple wives. I was like, I can be polyamorous even. Like, I was like, that was my thought process, which is totally wrong. And so, yeah. Pretty terrible, but the Lord shook that out of me and was like slapped me real hard because one of my girlfriend at the time, she like she ended up getting something demonic, like a demon. And I didn't, and like I saw her behavior change, and I saw this stuff about her change, and I was like, this is really weird. It's like, and she had been reading and studying occultic stuff that I had, like I had been shown. I'm like, yeah, Nephilim's real. Like, like the Bible's real. Like this, like it's real. It's old, but you know, it's like a cool, interesting story, and it's connected to all this stuff. And I started sharing a lot of these things with her, and I was like, and I think there's some the elite stuff is connected to it. It seems like there's Nephilim that are controlling elite situations. And I started and she started digging into stuff, and she started reading occultic books. And here's the thing, guys, like some people can read an occultic book and the demon will not attach to you, and you'll be fine because you're protected by the Lord out of your ignorance or whatever. And some people can read it and you pick up a demon. And that's what happened to her, because she started reading the stuff that I was reading and studying things or whatever. I don't know exactly how it got in, but something got into her, and she started like having like these shifts in her behavior, and she thought she was bipolar. Like there was like all this weird stuff going. She had like body spasms she couldn't control. And I just kind of was like, called a bunch of churches. I was like, hey, do you guys pray demons out? And they're like, no, we don't do that. And I was like, what do you mean you don't do that? It's like, I'm like, what do you, like, this, like, how do you not pray out demons? What, do you think they all took a break? Like, come on. Like, I mean, like, dude.
Bryan, do you remember any of their retorts? I'd be interested to know, like, what they were saying about that. Like, that's kind of your job, homie.
Dude, I called the Catholic Church. I called a bunch of churches, okay? And, like, I was like, Lord, I was like, help eventually. But yeah, their retorts were just like, oh, well, we believe that it happens, but it's a rare situation. It's just rare. And there's some people were like, yeah, well, we don't really do that. We don't really pray for people like that. You know, we don't really think that's like a thing that we deal with. You know, it's more like psychological. And I'm like, bro, I know your Bible better than you, and I don't even go to church. Like Mark 16:17, it says Christians are supposed to cast out demons. Like it gives a description of a Christian in Mark 16:17, by the way. It says, these signs will follow those that believe. Number one, in my name, they will drive out demons. It says they will lay hands on the sick and they'll recover. It says like Jesus gives a description and then he dips out. Like, so he like tells them like, hey, yo, this is how you're going to know a Christian. They cast out demons. That's like the number one thing. And so I'm like, I call a bunch of churches and I tell them this. I'm like, chew them out on their own Bible. And I'm like, yo, like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, you really don't think demons are real? Because I'm dealing with something. I think it might be demonic, to be completely honest, because this is not stuff I've ever seen before in a person, right. You know? And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I just prayed. And I was like, Lord, help. And dude, God showed up in like the most insane, powerful way. I prayed this, and like the next day I heard the voice of the Lord starting to speak to me, which I kind of heard this unctioning. We call it our conscience, right? When I was a kid. And I stopped kind of hearing that kind of overarching conscious speaking that I thought was my conscience when I was a child. And that voice came back real strong, and it straight up said, take down your art. This is the first thing I heard. And my walls are filled with like art of like, there was like naked drawings and naked paintings of girls, because I was an artist in this world of perversion. And so like I hear take down your art, and I'm like, what the heck was that? And I'm like, okay, that was weird. And then I hear read my 10 commandments. And I'm like, what the heck am I hearing? Like, this is so, and I was just working, just normal day. And after I prayed this, and I read the 10 commandments, and the second commandment says, make no image in the form of anything that is in heaven above, in earth beneath, in the waters below. Then it says, and do not bow down and worship those images. And I'm like, make no image. I'm like, I thought it said graven idol. Like, I thought it was graven image. I thought it was like people making idols, like statues, and worshiping them. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden I look over and I have a shelf of, because I played video games, I have a Smash Brothers collection, and I had a shelf of all these amiibos, right? And they're the amiibo, and they're on the highest shelf in my room. And I was like looking at them, and I'm like, are those like idols? Like, it's like dawning on me, bro. It's dawning on me what it means. The second commandment. I don't even realize it. And I'm like looking at the statues on my shelf, and I'm like, dude, they're on the highest shelf in my building.
Interesting. You put them in a high place.
Yeah. And I'm like looking at the, Mario and, Zelda, and I'm just like, and all of a sudden I hear the voice say, them too. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is really weird. So I'm like, as I'm looking at it, it's like the revelation is hitting me. Like, this is a modern definition of what an idol is. I just never noticed it because I thought worship meant to like bow to the object and be like worship. And bro, the understanding of worship hits me too in that moment. I hear worth. They are worth something because you worship them. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is kind of crazy, right? Because I'm like, I worship these. I have them. They're worth something. I have them on a high shelf. I have them like these idols, these images of something.
You literally toiled to make money to pay for these things. You your time here. Yeah.
I had like almost every amiibo. I had like almost every one of the Smash Brother amiibo collected. Like I was so proud of it.
Smash Brothers is a great game too. I'm just
it's
saying.
a solid game, dude. It's a great game.
It's super great. It's super good. And so yeah, like I had it, and I was just like, this is. And so I just took them all down. I just dumped them in a box, and then I was like, immediately, I just grabbed them and boom. And then like I was like, all right, God, if you're talking to me, and I took all my art down. And I just set it down on the ground, and I was like looking at it, and I'm like, God, I'm like, if you're talking to me, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I hear a verse, bro, Deuteronomy 24:7 or something like that. I forget it. And I'm like, what the heck? I hear it twice. And so I look it up, and it says, and none of the condemned things are to be found in your hands. And I'm like standing in shock, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I was going to put this in like the attic or just put it away or, you know, like set it aside. It says none of it. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I'm sitting here talking to God in the air, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do, Lord? I'm like, am I like, you want, and I look and my stuff is sitting next to my flamethrower. I have a flamethrower. Yes. And like, I
casually,
crushing.
Yeah. I see it sitting there, and I'm like, and I hear burn it. And I'm like, what? This is my art. This is like plastic and toys, and I'm like, burn it. And so like I'm like, I hear another verse. It's like Deuteronomy 56 something. I don't know. I look it up, and it literally says he burned the offering. He brought the offering to be burnt as something. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, God, are you talking? So I'm freaking out. So I call my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, I'm hearing a voice in my head. It's telling me to burn
go in the backyard and flamethrow these amiibos.
Yes, it's literally what's happening. And I'm like, and she's like, and my girlfriend's like, and she's just like, why would God be telling you to like burn your stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. I think when I was a child, like I told God, no, I'd rather have my video games because I kind of felt like he told me to get rid of them when I was a child because I was obsessed and I had like posters of Nintendo on my wall. And I was like, I felt like the Lord told me to get rid of them. And at that moment I said, no, God, like I'd rather have my video games than you. And that was the kind of last time I heard this kind of voice talking to me. And as I'm talking to her on the phone, talking to my ex-girlfriend, and as I'm speaking to her, I hear it again. Boom, Jeremiah 5:7. And I'm like, and I'll never forget this because this is the scariest thing I've ever had. Like Jeremiah 5:7. And I'm like, it did it again. She's like, what do you mean? It just told me a verse again. And I'm like, and she's like, well, what does it say? I'm like, I don't know. Like Jeremiah 5:7. I look it up, bro. It was the scariest thing. Like my heart like skipped a beat and sank. And it literally says, why should I forgive you? Your children swore by gods that are not gods. Bro, like I just was like, what? Is God literally telling me, why should I forgive you right in this moment?
Right.
Because I swore by gods that were not gods. I just got done saying when I was a child, that was the last time I heard God speak to me. It was literally the definition. And I said, no, God, I'd rather have my video games than you.
Right.
And that was literally the definition. The verse answered me. And I was like, all right. I was like, okay, God, I hear that you're speaking to me through Bible verses right now. I'm like, this is really weird. I was like, but Lord, if you're talking to me and this is real, I want one clear verse that says that you want me to burn all my art and my video game collection stuff. And literally I get another verse. It's like Leviticus something. And I open the verse and it says, he handed the burnt offering. And I was like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, God, this is plastic. Like, these are plastic toys. This is like not good to burn. And then I'm like, what are we supposed to do? Burn it one by one? Yeah, yeah, right. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Burn it one by one? And I look down and the verse bumps over to the next verse by accident. I look down and it says he handed the offering piece by piece. I'm like, all right, okay. Like, I just grabbed all my art. I grabbed all my video games. I just started driving. And like, just like the Lord directed me exactly to a path to burn my stuff, and literally into a random lot. I turn and turn, and then he's like guiding me. He's like just telling me left. And I'm like, okay. And I don't even know where I'm going. I'm driving out to the middle of nowhere. I park. There's a spot to burn it. Like, I open this gate and there's like a little spot to like burn everything. And I'm just like, this is, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is like unreal. So I just started lighting myself on fire, burning it. And police, like, I hear the Lord say, okay, now put it out. And I'm like, I was not expecting this. So I'm like, what? Like, I thought I was going to burn it till it was gone. Like, he said, put it out and put it all back in the trash bag you brought it in and throw it away. I heard like this instruction. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, it was that clear. And so I'm like, okay. So I just put it out. And then I put it in the bag. I walk out the door. And as soon as I walk out the door, police lights pull up behind my car. And I'm like thinking, oh, great. No, Lord. No, officer. God told me to start this fire. God told me to start this fire. Like,
officer, I had an unhealthy relationship with Nintendo, and I was to rectify that. And,
for reals.
I really wasn't sure if I could do this in my yard, if the township would approve. And,
right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like thinking, this is not gonna go good. But like, I just like opened my car door with this smoldering plastic bag of burned toys and plastic, and I just stick it in my car and shut the door. And then the dude walks up and he's got a flashlight. He's like, hey, you live around here? I'm like, no, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, and he's like, but it was in a gate, so he couldn't see what I had done. And then he's like, you waiting for somebody? I'm like, I don't know, kind of. Like so he's just like, he's like,
aren't
okay.
we all?
Yeah, right. And so he like walks over and he looks into the gate, and as soon as he looks in, bro, it rains like instant, like drops like crazy rain as soon as he looks at the gate. And I'm like standing still in shock. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening right now in front of me. The dude, it rains. And then like the guy sees the smoke that was left looks like mist from the rain just hitting the ground. So you can't even tell that it's smoke. It was like smoldering or anything. And like, I'm like, what is happening? And the dude just turns around, and it's not a police officer. It is a security guard for a company that I had done work for, because I was a designer, that I had done design work for their vehicle that day. And I'm like, I know your boss, Sal. I'm like, I just did the decals for your car. And he's like, oh, you know Sal? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, no worries. Carry on. And he leaves. And I'm like, what the heck
Continue burning.
is happening? I'm like, this is insane. So I go home and I'm just like shook. And I'm just like sitting in my house and I'm by myself. I'm just like totally shook. And I'm like, Lord, this is not normal. I don't know what's happening. The next day, I was like, God, what am I supposed to do? I'm just going to go to sleep. Maybe you'll give me a dream. I don't even know. Like, I go to sleep. The next day, some random dude walks up to my door, comes into my business. I'm like, hey, you here for stickers? You here for design work? No. I'm like, okay. And then he's just like hanging out in my building. And I'm like working with another client. And I'm like, so do you have like a business? No, I'm just here to meet you. And I'm like, to meet me? Like, what is this weird old dude in my building? Finally, I pull him aside. I'm like, listen, weird guy, like, I'm about to kick you out of my office and I'm on my building. I'm like, why are you here? What do? You like, you say you're here to meet me. I don't even know you. Like, right. And he goes, and he's like, he straight says this to me. It's the craziest thing. He like just looks at me and he goes, I do miracles. And he goes, and I teach people how to cast out demons. And I'm pretty sure the Lord told me to come here today. And I'm like, what? The dude ends up praying for my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend or whatever. She ends up getting healed immediately, bro. I've never seen anything like this. Like, she got healed from the bipolar stuff, the body jerking things. Like, she had motion sickness when we would drive. She couldn't look at her phone and she would just get motion sick. So we couldn't like do driving and look at the directions. And so like, dude, she had all these things. They didn't even pray for that stuff, bro. They didn't even pray for it. They prayed and really, wasn't there for this. Like, he prayed for her and he like kicked me out. He was like, you leave. He prayed for her. Like, dude, she got instantly healed so amazingly. She couldn't sleep at night. She slept the whole night through, the first time in like years. And like, she had all these anxieties and problems gone. I had never seen such a miraculous change. And like, from that day forward, it was like I like asked him to train me. He wouldn't train me. And then finally the Lord was like, okay, train him. Like, it was kind of a funny situation, but like literally I was like, okay. And so from that day forward, Like God brought me another person that taught me, and then I've just been casting demons out, bro, and like healing people, and I've seen miracles and things that people wouldn't even believe at this point. I don't even bother telling people the miracles because honestly, like the stuff that I've prayed and seen happen, bro. I've prayed and we've seen acne come off of a girl's face, bro. We prayed and the next day she woke up and she had acne really bad, gone. And I didn't know you can do that. Like I didn't know you can pray acne off of someone's face. Like this is just like I didn't think these things were demonic. Like I didn't think there was like a connection to every physical ailment in the world is basically demonic. And it comes from the understanding of Nephilim, because the Nephilim corrupted our genome. And this is why Jesus heals people. Like Jesus didn't just come to heal people to show like, oh, here, I'm God. Here's a cool, neat party trick. Like he came to correct the destruction of the genome that the fallen angels had created in our bodies. And like that's what this restoration is. And that's what Jesus did. That's why he's so significant, and it ties to Nephilim. And like when I started studying like demons, like I studied them from like a theological like head knowledge. But when the Lord started revealing the spiritual aspect of this, it was just like puzzle pieces. It was like click, 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 click. Like I started understanding everything. Like instantly. It was like, oh, all this knowledge from the occult, here's what it actually is. God started showing me. And he was like, oh, here's all this other stuff from this evil realm. Here's what it actually is. And like, it was like a veil just like fell off it was like, I felt like I took a Matrix pill, and all of a sudden I could like recognize demonic stuff in everything and everywhere. I just started seeing it. And then I started praying against it. And bro, I started seeing crazy miracles and manifestations of stuff. So that's kind of a long introduction.
Do you think that there's any overlap? Because one of the sponsors for our company, we had like a very long discussion with them. They're a parasite cleanse company, and they're like, I think these things are actual demons. And I said, there might be some, when you look at them microscopically, they look kind of demonic, but the effects that they have on people from your gut biome all the way to your brain, I'm like, yeah, a lot of this stuff can be like not attributed to, but it does overlap with like demonic possession. Like just walking around in a cloud all day, not being able to like control your emotions. This stuff is from, so there's a physical aspect to this as well, which is probably Nephilim stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's something that I think about all the time. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like my videos, I talk about, actually a recent video sort of. But yeah, it's definitely a, there's a demonic connection to that, like 100%. And like there is the debate is with me is that either the demons possess themselves and cause them to act in the way that they do, because they don't always affect everyone the same. Like some people can eat the same food and not get the parasite, and while another person does and they get the parasite. So it's like, it's almost like the parasite was a creature that could act on its own of some form, but for whatever reason, something demonic possesses that parasite, and then it starts to affect the body of the person. And it's interesting because there's also the Essene Gospels of Peace, where Jesus supposedly, again, this is not a biblical text, it's not accurate because it's the Essene Gospels of Peace and there's a lot of like flaws in it, but it's very interesting because in it he actually draws a tapeworm out of a dude. And yeah, it like straight up says like, behold the face of Satan is what he says. And the guy is fasting and he draws him out by putting warm milk by the guy's face, and the tapeworm comes out of his mouth, and then he crushes the head of the tapeworm. And that's literally in like an ancient biblical text sort of. And so, the tapeworm he calls the face of Satan.
Today's episode is brought to you by PurgeSuddenly.com. What if I told you that more people have died from than have ever died from war? What if I told you that cancer, multiple sclerosis, acne rosacea, and rheumatoid arthritis can all be treated with parasite medication? Rid your body of these all too common. Purge Parasite Cleanse is made with ingredients like zinc, carrot powder, garlic, black walnut. We're talking all natural ingredients that are good for you. Or try their digestimes to promote healthy gut bacteria and aid in digestion. These, as well as any other products on PurgeSuddenly.com, can be purchased with promo code Nephilim, NEPHILIM, at PurgeSuddenly.com.
So
interesting. You know what? So I watched a movie the other night. I was just looking through. I don't really typically watch a lot of stuff, but the other night I was looking for something, And I found like an alien abduction movie, might have been on Amazon Prime or something like that. And I decided to give it a whirl. And what I found interesting was that the way that they depicted the Greys in the film, and I wish I could tell you guys the name of it. I'm forgetting it, but Top, maybe I'll shoot it to you later because I think it would be worth watching. The Greys in the film, they were depicted as being like grotesquely strong and athletic, which I don't really think is the case. But something that was interesting that they did in the film was they showed a scene where the Grey is regurgitating this thing that looks like our 3D model of the coronavirus. It's this thing with a bunch of tentacles hanging off it, some sort of parasite, regurgitates it into the main character's mouth. And it starts to, seemingly try to possess her. She ends up reaching in and pulling it out. And something happens where all of a sudden, out of the parasite, comes this ethereal spirit. And I said, ooh, that's really interesting. Because, sometimes you watch these films and you're like, what do they get right? What do they get wrong? And to see that moment where they're basically insinuating that the Greys themselves are just some sort of suit. Really what's running it is this parasite that has a spiritual component to it. I thought that was fascinating. But to go back to, because you said a lot of really interesting things, and one of the things that we tend to harp on that you hit right on the head there was that in modern day society where you kind of have this idea, like some people think that they're atheists, and it's like, well, there's really no such thing as atheists. You're always giving your veneration to something. And one of the examples that I use the most is, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or Star Wars, or in your particular case, Nintendo, or all of these different video game characters. It's like, what are we doing saying that, well, I'm not religious or I'm atheist, but I do have all these posters and idols all over my wall, and I do work countless hours at my job to then dump in money to buy tiny idols that I can put around my house, and I spend a lot of time reading the lore, playing the games, theorizing different, because, you look into sort of creepypastas and things like that. People do a lot of speculation as to like the deeper, more esoteric meanings of video games. If that's not a religion, then I don't know what is. If you're going out into the world and you're wearing a Star Wars shirt, and then you're coming home and you're watching Star Wars, and your room is an homage to Star Wars, by the way, because everywhere you look, you can't help but look upon an idol because you've hung them all over your walls. That is, I think, the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced there's no such thing as atheism. You are going to give your veneration to something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's worth. It's like when you start to think something's worth something, that's worth-ship. Okay? And so like people think, people don't realize how much worship really is, but demons use these items in the occult. I don't know, like when you're conjuring a spirit, what you need to conjure a spirit is an idol and an intention. And you can evoke it through a name, and that doesn't matter. So like Satanists and stuff, like a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just get an object. It doesn't matter what the object is. And then they'll impose an intention on it, or channel into the intention of that object as it was being worth something to somebody else, to try to conjure the spirit within it. And they'll create an idol, and then if they want to speak to a demon, they'll create an idol, an object, and they build a little altar, and then when they go to it, they pray to the thing. And it's because like demons need an occultarium. They need like a vessel to inhabit. Now they can inhabit you as a vessel, like your vessel, the same, and there can be your spirit as well as other spirits in it. But demons also, it's easier to communicate with them as humans because we're used to talking to physical things, so it's easier for them to inhabit objects. So they inhabit objects that you can then speak to and communicate with. And you'll know that if something's demonic in something, it'll be it's really easy to tell, honestly. If I tell you to throw it away and you go, oh, I'm not going to do that, that's the thing the demon's in. And it's pretty clear. Like the minute and that's why it says you cannot love the things of this, you cannot love the world or the things of this world. It says this about Christians. It says, if you love the things of this world, the love of the Father is not in you.
It's interesting, man, because your story, it sort of mirrors mine, except I didn't get like that kick in the teeth the way you did directly from God. But I remember vividly, like, so I met my wife playing at church, playing guitar and stuff like that. And there were certain things where it wasn't like a direct voice, but like you can feel it. You're like, hey, put that down. Don't do that. If you're going to do this, don't do that. And I remember vividly saying, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to put this down right now. And then that voice becomes lower and lower and lower, until you're kind of just like floating, and you're like, well, where's my guidance now? You know, like I used to have this strong intuition, and it seems to have abandoned me. But lately I think I've been doing a good job of listening, listening and obeying a little bit better, and putting my ego aside, right? Because a lot of that is like, I don't want to do this right now because I like what I'm doing, and I think I can do something cool here, whatever it is.
I had my story, Top, and I'm not going to go off on the whole thing, but very similar, where it's like I had a interaction with what I consider a demon, and it wasn't until I had that interaction where I never discounted the Bible or Jesus Christ.
Well, tell him the story, man. Like, I think he might be able to.
Okay, I'll try to give you the abridged version because it can be long-winded. But essentially, what happened? I've been a lifelong conspiracy theorist since like 16 years old, and I never discounted the Bible or Jesus, but I just never gave it the look that it deserved. It was always on the table. It was just off to the side. So when I'm like 29 or something like that, I decided to pick up my family and move to Las Vegas. It's a big undertaking, but we came all the way from New Jersey. It was a 48-hour drive. We put everything in a little Elantra, and we drove across the country. And long story short, we ended up just taking L after L, getting our ass whooped. I had a good job. I lost a good job. We weren't able to save the money we needed to get to the place that we wanted. And honestly, I started feeling like I wished I had a way out. What ended up happening was there was a sickness in the family on my wife's side. We had to go all the way back to New Jersey. And part of me was actually relieved because it was like, well, at least I don't have to admit that it was my own failure that drove us back to New Jersey. So when we get there, we land with the in-laws, and they're like Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're also Hispanic. So there's like cultural barriers there. And rather than be like appreciative because they gave us a roof over our heads and they're cooking us meals and they took us in till we can get on our feet, instead I kind of found myself becoming like resentful and distant, and also kind of depressed and down on myself because I still had these feelings of inadequacy and failure. And I don't think that you really get away from those things. So I started kind of living my life on repeat, where I would go to work, I'd come back, I wouldn't socialize with my in-laws. I would hide myself in this bedroom, and I would play video games like a loser until
Super Smash Brothers?
No, Red Dead Redemption 2. Honestly, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a banger of a game. And I played that, every day. My life was on repeat. My wife would even bring me a dish for dinner to the room because I wasn't man enough to go down and show face while my wife and my son were playing with the in-laws. So this happens over and over again, and I get into this really terrible loop of a lifestyle. And what ends up happening is one night I go to sleep after living my life on replay, and I have I wake up and somebody's knocking on the door in the middle of the night, like boom, boom, boom. And I jump out of bed, and I go and I look to the window, and nobody's there. And I quickly realized, like, nobody else seems to hear this. My wife's not disturbed by it. The in-laws aren't up walking through the hallways to go see who's at the door. So I kind of go, what the fuck? And I go back to sleep. As soon as I drift off, boom, 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 it happens again. I burst out of bed. I look out the window. Nobody's there. And now I'm just unsettled. And I'm, I'm kind of freaked out. So as soon as I drift off, it happens a third time. This time I don't even get up. I recognize, like, this isn't the door to the house. It's the door to me that somebody's knocking on. So I'm so freaked out by it that I stay up until, like, the sun comes up and I go to work, live life on repeat, come back again. The second night in a row, now instead of knocking, something pulls at my arm. And I wake up and I go, well, that could have just been me spasming. So I go back to sleep, and it happens again. And so now I tuck my arms inside my blanket like a child, and I managed to go back to sleep. Now something pulls my ankle. So once again, I stay up until the sun comes up. Now the third night, right? Wake up the next day, get like minimal sleep, And now I'm kind of like delusional. By the way, not told my wife any of this because I don't want to draw attention to it. I really want it to stop. I don't want anything to do with it. I want it to stop. And I feel like if I pay attention to it, it's going to exacerbate it. So I go through the same thing. I come home, I play the game, I eat the dinner, I go to sleep. And now I have a nightmare. And the nightmare is that I'm in this like black void, and in the middle of it, I've got no real sensation of my own body, like no agency. I'm just viewing. And there is stood in the middle of this void, a sort of like a humanoid in the sense it's got arms and legs, and it's kind of jacked. Like, I don't know why it's a stupid detail, but it's like it's not shredded, but it's thick, and it looks like a problem. I remember that. And and it's breathing really heavily, like its chest is rising and collapsing, rising and collapsing. And its skin looks like a slug, like a gray and black cheetah print, but like not slimy. It just looks like that. And its eyes are bright red, like cherries, like maraschino cherries, like almost like illuminated. And it's got these bottom canid teeth that are overlapping its upper lip. Like they're big enough to do that. And that's it. That's the whole dream. It's looking at me. It's breathing. I don't know. I'm not reacting. I'm just viewing. I'm just an observer. And the whole that's it. It's just it looks like rage incarnate. So I wake up to my wife waking me up, and I don't tell her what's going on, but she tells me that she has had a nightmare, and I go, oh, that's crazy.
Join the
tell
club.
Me about it. Yeah, but I've not told her at all. So she goes, yeah, I had a dream that I was laying on my back and I couldn't turn to you, but I could move my eyes. So she's describing sleep paralysis. I've just not, she's never had it before. And I just continue to go like, oh shit. And she goes, yeah, I look over with my eyes and there is this monster choking you and pinning you into the bed. And it has bright red eyes and giant fangs that are coming over. So, dude, when she says this, I have a bad time, right? Like, I go like, I just go like, oh, fuck, that's crazy, man. And then I get my shoes on and I, get dressed and I go to work. And I'm now like in panic mode. I don't want, so I've not addressed it. There's nothing to, I've not addressed it. I just don't want to address it. There's nothing to do here, so why am I going to talk about it? Exactly. So I live life on repeat. I come home, I play the game, I eat the dinner, I go back to bed, and seemingly nothing happens. I wake up in the morning.
Pod, right?
I live in the pod.
bugs.
Yes, exactly. I eat the bugs. I live in the pod. Everything's great. I own nothing, and I wake.
And he's happy.
And I'm happy. I wake up in the morning. And my wife is waking me up, and she's like, yo, check this out. She goes, she shows me this video, and it's like where you would put your finger to check your pulse. On my neck is like throbbing. Like, and she goes, yeah, it's only like a 5 to 7 second video. She didn't let me suffer for too long. But she's like, yeah, it was so crazy. I had to record it and then wake you up, look like you were having a bad dream. So I'm looking at this video, dude, and I'm like, huh, that's crazy. And as I'm looking at it, my son starts screaming. He's on a twin-size air mattress at the foot of the bed. Starts screaming, but he's still laying down. We look over, and he sits up, and he's still screaming, but he's still not awake. And we, like, rush over, and we console him, and we wake him up. And finally, after the hysterics, he goes, I had a dream about a monster with big red eyes and big teeth. And
Wow.
Dude, let me tell you, like, you want to talk about not having recourse, like any recourse whatsoever? I'm just like, it's one thing for me. If it's me, I can just bottle it up and die internally, whatever. If it's my wife, now I'm like really concerned because now it's, but if it's my son too, I have a responsibility to not let demons eat my family, right? So I don't know what to do. I think I finally did tell my wife like later on that day. And that night, for the first time in my life, I prayed so desperately to Jesus Christ to remove this thing from my life, my family, this household, like all of that. Like, I mean, with the most intense desperation I've ever experienced, and it never happened again. That was maybe 5 years ago, and ever since then, I've turned a corner. And I didn't, I've not been pulling demons out of people. And I did something less intense, which was start a podcast. But that was a definitive changing moment where I was a lifelong conspiracy theorist, and conspiracy theories took a back seat to being a follower of Jesus Christ. Because in that moment, it was like I was so desperate to ever turn my back. When people are like, "Oh, Jesus Christ is just an egregore," I'm like, look, I don't give a shit what you say. There's no way I'm turning my back on the man who helped me in one of the most, desperate and embarrassing, like, as a dad with no recourse, like, feeling so weak and helpless. I'll never turn my back on that. So it's just interesting because I think we've come to things in a very similar way. It's just you did it in a much more impactful way. I was like, I think I'm going to buy a webcam. That's what I'll do.
No, you did it great. You did great. The fact that you called out to Jesus desperately, like that was what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? The more interesting thing is and I deal with people that deal with these kind of things all the time now. Like I deal with this kind of situation, like things like this. And it's like, it's crazy because a lot of times, like, that's the key is calling out to Jesus. People always want to think it's like something physical sometimes, and it's not always something physical. Like the key is spiritual, and you got to call out to the Lord in desperation. And so, like, a lot of times it was desperate just as much physically as it was, I'm sure, for you emotionally when you were calling out to God praying, as it was for me to burn my video game stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's interesting because all of us come to the Lord in like different ways. Like a lot of times people come to Jesus and it's like your situation where it was like something terrible was happening or something scary was happening, right? And it brings us to the Lord. I wasn't in that situation,
Oh, wait, Bryan, can I just also say the ways in which we're similar too is I often say, like, I came to the realization that Jesus Christ died for our sins through the back door. Like I didn't have a church upbringing whatsoever. I came in through like my understanding of the occult because I'm looking everywhere and I'm like, these symbols are everywhere. I've got to understand them. And so, my introduction through like, weird spiritual events in my life, but also noticing like all the symbolism in music videos in Hollywood, that's where I came from. So I don't recommend, just like you don't recommend, I don't recommend anybody go delving into the understanding of witchcraft and occultism or anything, but admittedly, that is how I got to where I am.
Yeah, because you recognize how real it is. But like but the desperation is what's important in a lot of this, and people don't understand. Like God comes to the desperate. It says, the brokenhearted, blessed are the brokenhearted. You know what I mean? And so like God shows up to those people all the time. And it's like for me, and to get to that point, you have to get brokenhearted. And thankfully by the Lord, like that he had me do that, because these video games was like my idol, bro, obviously. And I had them on a shelf. So like it, in a sense, put me in some state of desperation. Right. But like it's funny because a lot of people do have like crazy situations that brought them to the Lord where it was like, oh, my sister was dying or something was terrible happening or this was happening. And then it was like a call out to the Lord in that moment of desperation. And that's literally what evokes the Spirit of the Lord. Like, is your heart calling out and help me? Like, because God is the God of the downtrodden. He's the God of the brokenhearted. He's the God of he hears you. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was different than a lot of Christian stories that I've heard because, dude, my life was great. Like I had like 2 girlfriends and like was like polyamorous and like playing video games every day when I wanted, like doing whatever I wanted. And like the Lord was like, no, bam. Like it was just like, it was like, for me, it was like kind of the opposite because I went through like everything was great. And then now that I'm serving the Lord, it was like hailstones came down on me. And like, it was just like trying to like cut all these things out of my life to be as righteous as possible. Like God was like, you can't have that. You can't have that. You can't have that. You can't have that. And God just started like cleaning the house and like cutting stuff off of me. And it was something that like, when you want to serve the Lord, when you're seeking, he can be your answer. But like Christianity, just so you guys know, you can't be a Christian and be alone. Like a Christianity, that's such a stupid thing to think that you can be like, what, 6 of the 10 commandments are literally about how you treat other people. You know what I mean? So it's like, a lot of times people don't understand, like Christianity isn't about you. It's about like how you are with the Lord and with others. And so like to be a hermit Christian in a mountain somewhere, it don't work. Like it ain't gonna work. Like you can't do that. Like you have to love people. The Bible says that we are God's hands and feet. Okay, so like God doesn't just like do stuff in people's lives unless you ask him to. And this is also a very important part. Like the only reason why you came to Christ is because someone prayed for you guys. Somebody prayed for you somewhere. That's it. And if they didn't pray for you, you wouldn't have been, will not be where you're at right now. Somebody walked by you, bro, and prayed for you. Somebody saw you and prayed for you. Somebody thought about Bryan, you and prayed for you.
That's an interesting point because you do see throughout the Bible, there's several times in which God is petitioned by either angels or men, on behalf of other people. I mean, certainly, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a great example, right? Where it's like, will you not burn the city down for 50 good men? Well, what about 40 good men? Well, what about 30 good men? And it's like there seems to be a theme of like bargaining or petitioning on behalf of other people to God.
Yesterday in the park, I just got to say this, in the parking lot, I was buying stuff for the hurricane, and some guy, I'm a New Yorker, so whenever somebody approaches me, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what do you want? This guy's gonna stab me. And some random dude, and he just goes, hey, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, God loves you. And I was like, thanks, you too. And then he just walks away. And
really?
I was like, what? Yeah. I was just like, my dad was with me, and he was like, what did that guy want? And I was like,
same thing. What
never
did he
mind.
want?
Yeah, like exactly. It's like we're real suspicious, but it's also the way it was like a tall black dude, and it's like I was like, oh, what is this guy is he gonna like ask me? I thought he was gonna ask me to buy fruit snacks or something like that. Like this.
Oh my God, yeah, but this isn't New York. But legitimately, that's what happens in New York.
That's what happens, and he just told me that, and I was like, huh. And then I started thinking, where did this come from? It's like, did somebody, like, this is preyed upon by somebody? Is that guy an angel? I don't think so.
Well, think about it.
Is it
the
a
guy
messenger?
beelined to you in a parking lot.
He cut through parked cars, so he kind of like cut through the road. So I saw him, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I'm gonna have to like kill this guy or something. And then he just said that, and I was just like, what is that? And then he's like, yeah, man. And then he walks away, and I was like, this is like bizarre. I don't know where to put this.
That's great though.
I guess I needed it too, because I don't know. I was like, you get into some funks in life, right? And I guess I've been kind of going through, but whatever. You're a man, you go through it, and you just continue on. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Like, where does that come from? Is that
honestly, and it speaks to the character of that guy, because it's like, would I, under regular circumstances, see a person and go, that person right there, like something put it on his heart to come in and say that to you. That's wild.
Is he even conscious that he did it? Well, one of the the guy that we were supposed to have on, I'm sorry to jumble around. We were supposed to have a guy on, and he tells a story about his brother. He's playing a Ouija board with his brother, and whatever entity it said that it wanted his daughter. He said, no, you can't have my daughter. And he says, well, then I'm going to do something to you. And 2 years later down the line, his brother gets into a horrific car accident, breaks his back. And he's like surmising the semi that hit his brother. He's like, I know where this came from. Like, they told you that this was going to happen. It's just, it was a long time down the line. And it's like, was that truck driver just taken over in that instant? Was he spiritually open to be, manifested in this way? Was that guy in the parking lot? Is he just like a spiritually open to be manifested possibly by a good messenger? Something that pops in. I have no idea how any of this works.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can give you a perspective if you want to know. I mean, it's so the Spirit of the Lord doesn't possess anybody. Okay, like demons possess people and take advantage of your body and do things like against your will. Like things of the Lord, he just lets us have that experience, right? He lets us be inspired by it. Okay, and so like the situation, absolutely. What happens is, when you speak things into this realm of existence, the Lord has given us authority. And so that guy, unfortunately, the demon said it was going to do something to me. He probably told that story to so many people, right? And he probably said, the demon said he was going to do something to me. The demon said he was going to do something to me. And he like repeated this. He evoked the authority of that spirit. And so when the spirit had an opportunity to do something to him, he said, Lord, your prophet said that I can do this thing to him. He believed it when I wrote those words. He said I can do this. And so then the driver of the truck probably got either the demon put him to sleep and then cranked the wheel. either the demon, possessed the man and he blacked out. He was either drinking or whatever. And so drunk driving, this is like a perfect example. Like, you're evoking a spirit to have, and the alcohol is drinking from the realm of the dead. So alcohol is alcohol. It means body eating spirit, right? So like if you drink it, it's from the realm of the dead. It's like, what is alcohol? It's rotted juice, bro. It's rotting, decaying juice. Just like if you take mushrooms, what do those grow out of? They grow out of poop. Like, it's like, and then you go into hallucinate. That's from the realm of the dead. If you consume things from the realm of the dead, you're evoking spirits. It's bringing you closer to death, and it allows you to be more utilized. So you drink alcohol, and then the demons can more easily control your body. And you don't know why, but, because you just drank something from the realm of the dead, fool. Like, duh. Like, and so, yeah, demon could have gone into the dude. He could have had one drink, and like, that's it. The demon had control of the guy's body. And then the demon petitions the Lord and says, no. He said that we could do this to him. He said that we could do it. He prophesied it in his words. And so the demons will use it.
That's true. I love that idea, though, by the way, because we talk about alcohol being spirits, but, the sort of logistics of it being derived from something rotting. So being something of the realm of the dead and akinning it to mushrooms that's very interesting.
It gives like a really intense layer of when people like, well, God is this or God is that. Is like, somebody today was telling me that God, he promotes war and rape, and so I was like, no, God is very fair. God is like, there are rules, and if you adhere to the rules, or if you consent to some of these rules, I mean, God's like, okay, have at it. These are the rules.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he's a completely just God and a righteous God, because we know that in the end, how these things are judged. But until that time comes, he's like, hey, they've consented, then you go for it. I'm completely fair.
Right.
Man.
And this goes back and forth what we're constantly talking about when it comes to spiritual warfare. It's your consent that is everything. And people don't understand what that means to consent. When we think of consent, we often think it's like, a verbal agreement, or maybe signing your name on the line of like a Faustian bargain. I will give you this aspect if you give me riches and fame. But there are so many layers to what consent actually means. Engaging with something like a Ouija board is a form of consent. It's so many of the things between substances and rituals and things that we engage in are actually consenting to conversation.
Well, they're burned offerings.
Yes. And you're opening a line for dialogue. And that opening of a line for dialogue of the spiritual nature to an entity is, the beginning of a lot of traps that you've got to be able to navigate.
The Bible says the power of life and death is in the tongue, and those that master it eat the fruit thereof. Like, that tells you right there. Like, it tells you what, like Jesus says, say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, and it will obey you. It doesn't say it'll obey me. He says it'll obey you, because there's an authority that you carry, whether you recognize it or not. And so, like, there's an authority that's been granted unto you. Jesus says, all authority on heaven and earth has been given unto me. Therefore now go. He gave this authority unto you. You prophesy when you speak. You just don't recognize it. We think prophesying means foretelling the future. No, prophesying is foretelling the future in some cases, but there's another form of prophesying, which means speaking the future as though it is, as though you want it to be, so your words prophesy. So when you say, oh, don't do that, you're going to get hurt, you just prophesied over that person, fool. Like, you literally don't understand why do you think there's so many death-centric things in our language? Like, why do you think they're trying to constantly promote, like, I'm dead, I died, like all these stupid things in our language? Yeah, like, literally, like, you think these are irrelevant terms. Demons see these words as spells, as agreements.
Yes.
And so, like, they may not be able to act on them right away because of your ignorance, but eventually, if you say them enough, there's a legal right that the demon can hold you to. And so the demons will take advantage of people that speak in these manners. That's why you need to be cautious of how you speak. 100%. Like, almost every time people think that this is not you doing it. It's you. It's you doing it. You evoked the spirit.
Yes.
You said the words. You did the thing. Like people don't think cigarettes are burned offerings. Fool, cigarettes are burned offerings. Like, you think you're smoking a cigarette? No. You are burning an offering to something. You just don't know what it is. Like, that's what burned offerings are in the world. Just look into the occult. You know, the two most common things they burned offerings to, guess what demons like? Tobacco and sage. Look it up in history. Tobacco and sage is the most common things that demons ask you to burn an offering to.
That's interesting. So these people that are going around, they're cleansing their house with sage. Is it just
yeah, you're evoking
really what
spirits?
Not even just evoking them, but you're like giving them what they want temporarily, so there might be an
Yeah.
alleviation of symptoms until the next time that it's hungry.
Oh, it's even worse than that, because what happens is if a demon's in your house, no big deal. Like, demon, what is it going to do? Like, push a thing over, shut a door, make some creaking noises and footsteps, like whatever. Like, whatever, demon. But you burn sage, and now the demon is gone into you. Now it's a worse problem. Yeah, sure, the symptoms stopped. Yeah, because you gave it an entry into you. You breathed the smoke of the sage in. You made the offering, and now the demon's in you. Now watch what happens when you get cancer in 2 years from now. Watch what happens when this happens. Because you thought you could get rid of the demon by burning an offering. Fool, you just breathed it into you. It wasn't a problem when it was in your house. Now it's inside of you. And people are like, oh, I burned it and the problem stopped. No, fool. The problems have evolved. Like, you just burned it an offering. You gave it what it wanted. You gave it its entryway. Like, that's against the Lord's. This is how things are. So when you burn something, there's a transmutation of that thing that is God's creation. And when you burn the tobacco, it's like when you burn it there, or you burn the sage, you're essentially, there is a spiritual component to the transmutation of that. And it's treated as an offering. It's the same way why you burn that offering unto the Lord. And it becomes like an agreement. And so you're burning the life of this plant. You could burn anything. It doesn't really matter, but just sage happens to be, sage and tobacco happens to be the things they like. But like, you burn these things, and it's like it's an agreement unto the demon. There's
an episode on my old show where I interviewed my aunt, and she had a clear demon on her. So of course, what does she do? She goes to a witch doctor in Puerto Rico to address it, and the witch doctor speaks directly to it. He gives her he prescribes that one thing, burn sage throughout your house, and then he tells her to put scissors in her lawn. And she does all these things, the scissors get removed, the demon intensifies. To this day now, she's like, you've met my aunt, David. She's in bad shape, and I think she's still dealing with this, and I think she's still burning sage. And I'm like, I told her, I was like, you've done everything wrong.
It's not working.
It's not working.
It's not working.
I was baffled as she's telling me the story, because I was a young kid as this is going on. And I said, lady, every single step of the way, you have made the incorrect move. And I'm looking at you right now. You're having trouble breathing. You have COPD. You're overweight. Your
inability to learn is impressive.
It's impressive. But I mean, I guess as you go on and you continue to make these mistakes, it just compiles. It's like hard to think and get out of.
That's why. So whenever I have, because my life has been dotted with strange occurrences from seemingly entities. My grandmother was a self-professed clairvoyant and all that kind of thing. She was into the New Age. She died when I was very young, but I think that she maybe put some generational iniquity over our line, kind of a deal. And so that's the only way that I can explain what seems to be just these occurrences throughout my life where I have run-ins with entities. Now, that being said, because I do a show, people are aware of it, and they often tell me things like, you should do this, you should burn sage. I'm like, I just ask Jesus Christ to remove them from my home, if there's any rights that they have over me, to break those rights, if there are any iniquities or generational curses, things of that nature. I just do it that way, and it seems to stop. But one of the things that I wanted to go back to that you said before, as we're talking about this, the veneration that we give these idols, regardless of whatever context they are, if they're video game idols, if they're cinematic universe idols, yada yada, you can find, although anecdotal, testimony from individuals who will tell you stories about their strange run-ins with entities, especially in childhood. But they always have this really weird detail that they share in common. And the nature of these occurrences and the details they share in common are that, for some reason, standing at the foot of my bed was my favorite action figure, but it was human-sized. Or I don't know why, but I woke up... Fred Flintstone, Barney the dinosaur, Santa Claus. I've heard one of the most horrifying stories from somebody that claimed to have sleep paralysis and saw Santa Claus. And, it sounds ridiculous. it will make all the hairs on your body stand up. And it brings you to this idea of like, yeah, if they are familiar spirits, are they taking the form of something that's familiar to you? Is that one of the aspects that is harmful about giving all of your veneration, especially as a child? You have a toy, and in particular, a particular toy or action figure that, like, for your age, you love disproportionately. Like, you love that thing. You take that thing everywhere you go. And then you have these weird stories of kids where they're like, my favorite stuffed animal is talking to me, my favorite. And then it breaks into Hollywood where it's like, yes, now the kid's toy is possessed. It's like, is that far from the mark, Bryan, in your estimation? Or is that kind of on right on course for what actually happens in reality?
I mean, like the demon will take an identity of anything that you venerate. So demons utilize your veneration of celebrities, of figures. I mean, like this
is why Justin Timberlake was standing at the end of my bed when I was 13 years old. Son of a That's how I'm just saying that didn't happen. That didn't happen.
But like, this is how it is, like, for reals. And so, like, we venerate these things, and the demons will take on the personifications of even dead loved ones.
Yes.
And so that's familiar spirits is usually referring to like the dead of a loved past loved one, right? And so in idol worship or history worship or worship of your ancestors, or like the demons tether to objects and identities and images of things, basically. So it really doesn't matter what the thing is. The demon will kind of like assume that identity and try to get you to worship it or venerate it or have like some kind of experience from that sort of emotion, I guess.
Right. And that's something that you hear a lot too, is like people that one story in particular that stuck with me was this girl who, when she was younger, her grandmother passed away. She had a very intimate relationship with her grandmother, so it was particularly devastating when she passed away, but she would have occasional nightly visits by her. And in the beginning, they started off as comforting, reassuring. She felt the love of her grandmother in those moments, but then over time, the interactions started to evolve, and then eventually she gets stuck in a sort of a dream loop where her grandmother, for whatever reason, now is deranged and horrifying looking, long hands, long teeth, terrifying eyes, and she's dragging her down a hallway. And every time she gets to the end of the hallway, she wakes up in her bed, and the dream starts over and over again. She's in this loop, getting dragged down the hallway, and then back in her bed, dragged down the hallway and back in her bed. And so this is something you hear very often. And it's honestly, it's down and dirty, because one of the most vulnerable moments of your life is that moment when you lose a loved one. And
demons don't play fair.
They don't play fair, and that's where this idea of individuals who have experienced a lot of trauma, this trauma acts as a gateway through which these entities will take advantage of you.
Well,
emotions? They tether to emotions. So
Yes.
Let me ask you something. Because they don't. So the demons don't play fair. They play. It's actually very unfair what they do to human beings, every day, all day. But they still do adhere to rules.
Yes.
Certain rules, and it always perplexed me as to why. Like they have to get your consent, even if it's like a wishy-washy consent. But I'm like, at this point, why not just like go past it and do whatever you want to do? But they just can't seem to.
Yeah, so there's a because when Jesus came, the rules of demons changed. Okay, so like you got to understand, like when we get into it, when Jesus showed up, when the Star of Bethlehem showed up, all the Nephilim went and killed themselves. I don't know if you know this, but historically, you can read about Machu Picchu. It says that the giants that built Machu Picchu, when the Star of Beth, they said a star shone really brightly, and they went and jumped off of mountains and killed themselves because they saw the Star of Bethlehem and they knew that was the prophecy. He's coming to crush our head. And so the Nephilim went and killed themselves. Only a few of them remained, which El Centenario is one of the ones in the Basque country between France and Spain that survived and stayed. And like, this is where our traditions of Christmas came from. It was actually the Nephilim. He would return bringing gifts like, don't kill me. And so he tried to like befriend the people. And so this is like what he would do. And then this is where it evolved into Krampus, which is the Nephilim, because it was like other variations of him, would show up, and they had transmuted with humans and animals, and they've like gotten in different sizes, but they would show up bringing gifts and like trying to hope that the Christians wouldn't, hope that the people that worship the Star of Bethlehem didn't kill them. And so this is a lot of what this kind of concept comes from. And so like they've been like, you know, there's rules that they've been bound to some degree. They're afraid of the authority. Like when Jesus said, like they said, "Don't hurt me. Have you come to torment us before our time?" You know, like the demon said, right? So a lot of them killed themselves. There was a few of them that remained, and those that remained are in fear. And so that's why aliens hide from you, by the way. Like they're afraid of you. They're afraid of the authority of Christ. They're afraid of the anointing, the authority that we carry. The authority has been given unto you. So like you have the ability to speak it. So I'm of the belief that a lot of things have, like our history is not what it seems. Like I think when Jesus came, like there was potentially the 1,000-year reign of Christ happened right after that even. And like we're somewhere after a lot of this stuff where it says in Revelation, it says, you know, after the 1,000-year reign of Christ, Satan's let out for a little while to deceive the nations. And I think we might be right there in that point. And there's a lot of reasons to believe that, but spiritually understanding the authority of Christ and why the demons want everybody to curse everyone. Because the demons need your permission to do stuff in your life. The demons need you to say things. They need you to curse other people. They need you to say, and the demons will literally say, "Lord, your prophet said that we could kill this person. Look, he said, I wish he would die." Like, you know, and so like the demons hold these agreements up and they're like, no, they said it. I heard him. He said this. That's why I'm here. So like the demon will be like, "I'm here because he kept this idol. He worshiped this thing. He prayed to this thing, God." And that's why you have to smash idols. And like I said, demons don't play fair. Like, bro, things like heirlooms, things that are really valuable to you. "Oh, my grandpa gave me this watch. Oh, my grandpa. Oh, my grandmother gave me this ring. Oh, yeah, bro, those are the things demons tether to. They love heirlooms. They don't play fair. They love these kind of things that you'll never get rid of. Why? Because they'll never have to leave. They make an agreement of the thing that you have. And so then they're like, this is what we've got. This is what I have. And now this is my right to be here. And so demons do play by a semi rule book, but that rule book is something that's not what you think always. But there's the authority comes back to you. It comes back to what you say out your mouth. That's why you got to be very careful and cautious of what you say, what you speak, what comes out your mouth, this kind of stuff. So
do you think that so that rule book that they seems like that they have to play by, if they disobey it, will they end up like the aliens that are, the angels, the fallen angels that are already cast into this pit that are going to be released at the end of time?
You know, I don't know what happens if they don't go by the rule book, but I will tell you that they do all listen to it. And it's almost like unwillingly they listen to the rules. And I don't know if it's like something inside of them like prohibits them from being allowed to go of the thing. Like the demon that was, you know, seething over your friend he was talking about, like that demon was like not him. It wanted to kill him. It couldn't kill him. It was trying to kill him, right? So the demon was choking him, trying to kill him. We're talking about your demon. So like the demon that was trying to kill you, it wanted to kill you. Like it wanted to, like it, but it couldn't, right? So like there is a limit to what the demon's desire is over what the demon's facility is. Like had he said, how you said out your mouth while you said that demon on you, rather than praying to the Lord, had you said out your mouth, "I think it's gonna kill me," oh bro, you'd been done. Like you don't understand how demons work. Like if you said out your mouth, "This thing is gonna kill me," had you said those words, you'd be gone. Like you would have granted permissionable access to that demon to do what it was trying to do, and you cursed yourself.
This episode is brought to you by landofbiltong.com. Biltong is a traditional form of dried, cured meat which originated from southern African countries. And at Anton's Land of Biltong, they use premium cuts of Angus and Wagyu beef. They handcraft their own spice blends and slowly dry age their meats to give you biltong with a unique and satisfying flavor. Unlike popular brands of beef jerky that are filled with preservatives and chemicals, food colorings, and sugars, Anton's Biltong is made with natural ingredients. When I'm doing diets like the ketogenic diet or the carnivore diet, I can just reach over and grab a bag of Anton's Biltong biltong, and there's no harm done. I'm able to snack and not feel guilty about it. I genuinely love Anton's biltong. In fact, in between shows when we're doing a double day and I don't have time to cook for myself, I just walk over to the kitchen real quick, grab a bag, and chow down. Listeners of this show can go to landofbiltong.com and use promo code Nephilim to get 10% off all of their orders. Anton's Biltong plus landofbiltong.com is currently offering free shipping on any orders over $49.95. That's promo code Nephilim to receive 10% off your entire order from landofbiltong.com. Biltong is not just food, but a way of life. It makes sense, Bryan, because these things seemingly, especially we talked to, and here we go, right? We have to mention it. This is Nephilim Death Squad. We talked to Dr. Jerry Marzinski.
Everybody drink, but don't drink alcohol.
Every time, yeah, don't do that. Drink some water, have some water. But every time we mention him on the show, we mention him constantly. But he's been on the show twice, and he's a clinical psychologist who was in the field for 35 plus years, working strictly with schizophrenic patients, and eventually was in a clinical setting where first he was in a medical setting, then he was in a prison setting. In the prison setting, he was allowed to kind of experiment more and try to address these entities. Long story short, he comes out of the other end saying, this is demonic possession. This is not auditory and visual hallucinations like the medical industry in the West says it is. Now, one of the things that always happens is the patient always gets markedly worse over time, but specifically in like the way of the negative thoughts, negative outlooks, negative self reflections,
and it's always biblical. Their stuff will always be very biblical.
Of course, it's always biblical too. But it seems like the more negative, I think these things feed off of energy. The more negative you get, the more they essentially.
Well, it's curses. The more you speak, the more permission will access you speak over yourself.
Right. So when you think about the idea, you come to this conclusion: this thing is gonna me. Well, that is a very heightened sin. Yes, and he always says Psalm 23 is the most effective thing to utilize against these voices that these people are hearing.
It would actually be interesting if you did speak with this guy, because he's doing scientific exorcisms. But he's not evoking the name of Jesus Christ. He's just documenting what these entities are telling him, and they're actually like speaking through these patients. At one
I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, they said get a kick out of him. He's great.
They went up to him and they were like, "Hey, you know what you're doing is dangerous, right?" And he was like, "I'm just being a doctor." And then they also said to him, "You have no right to interfere with our way of life." While he's in a jail and just interviewing like one by one, having them come in one by one, to the point where one of them, I mean, the story is fascinating, where he actually heard an electrical static noise go across his room behind his back and jump into a garbage can, nothing there. And the guy that's in front of him was like zombied out. Then he wakes up and he's like, "I gotta go." He sees the guy months later. He goes, "Hey, what was that about? Like, you were just, what happened when you were in my office that day?" And he said, "The entities were talking to me." And he says, "I heard some crackling." He says, "You could hear that?" He's like, "Yeah, I heard it in the room, but I didn't know what it was." And he said, "Well, what did they tell you?" And he said, they told me to go out and find a shank and put it in your guts." And Jerry, being Jerry, he goes, "Why didn't you?" And he says, "I couldn't find one and no one would give me one." That's it.
That's pretty funny.
That's crazy, dude. And then he keeps interviewing people. I'm like, you're a madman. Yes. Absolute mad
I want to
lad.
talk to this guy. I'd love to talk to this guy.
He doesn't understand
he doesn't understand the authority of Jesus, though. He doesn't understand that.
I think he does.
Now maybe, but at the time, I mean, this is probably 25 years ago that he's just discovered. He started as he's a clinical psychologist, and he was looking at it through a scientific lens. And basically, I think he was battling what they taught him in school and what Big Pharma is doing there, rather than looking at it through a religious or a biblical lens. And now he's completely looking at it like that, because he said one of the things that they would react to is Psalm 23. He said it would be like throwing worms on a frying pan whenever you read that in front of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got it. What's his name?
Dr. Jerry Marzinski. He said that it all started to go south for him when he noticed that these things were adhering to a plethora of patterns, which is something that the medical industry, if these are auditory and auditory and visual hallucinations, you would expect them to be random, mostly. But in fact, he discerned 23 patterns that they adhere to consistently. And he's like, that's not a hallucination, doesn't do that. So that's what set him off on this path. And yeah, I mean, he's a great guest. You would definitely get a kick out of talking to him.
Yeah, the things I've dealt with, because I've dealt with schizophrenic demons all the time, and I've met so many. Like the first one I went to, somebody brought me over to pray with the demon. And so, like, by the way, side note, like, there's spiritual gifts in the Bible. And so it talks about discernment of spirits, and this is the gift that the Lord woke up in me. And so, like, I have been able, like, I could hear him talking in people. Like, I've literally gone to people, prayed with them, and I could hear the spirit talking in my head from the person, and I'll answer it, and they're like, "You heard that?" And I was like, "Completely, because you're not talking. You think you're talking. You think those are your thoughts. You don't recognize that that's a spirit speaking to you." And like, people are like, "Oh my gosh," and the light bulb just goes off the minute that happens. Like, the Lord has me do that all the time. I'll just be like, "No, this is actually what happened." They're like, "How did you hear that thought?" I'm like, "Because it wasn't a thought." Like, I'm telling you right now, wasn't a thought. You think it's a thought, it ain't a thought. So
that's
like,
exactly
somebody,
what
that's
Dr.
what he
Jerry
says.
Marzinski
Yeah.
says. Yeah, he says, like,
He's-
upwards of 80% of your thoughts are not your own.
no,
Yeah.
they're not at all. And like, I've come to this conclusion completely, and it's very fascinating. So like, I've been brought into the, people are like, "Well, hey, bring him to pray for schizophrenic people. Let's see how it goes." So the first dude I brought to pray for, like, the guy, I go to this dude's house, and this guy wanted prayer. He said, at least one version of him did, right? And so so I go to his house. His house is covered in crosses, and like, just like complete. And then like, they're like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, and he's like, "Oh, what are you here for?" "Oh, they said that I'm here to pray with you, bro." And he's like, "You?" And then like, it switches, like the demon comes in, like, boom, like instantly. And he's just like, "What are you going to do?" He's like, "What are you going to do to me?" He's like, "You think you can stop me?" And like, the demon starts like bad mouthing me, right? And I'm like, "Well, I'm here to pray, bro." And he's like, I don't really know. I come with the authority of Jesus." And the demon just speaks through it's fun when you deal with the demons that like speak through the person's mouth. It's pretty intense. But like, the demon's like, he's like, "The authority of Jesus." He's like, "Look around you, fool. We killed him. Why do you think we put the crosses up on the wall? Like, he's dead." Like, he's like, like, the realization of like crosses with Jesus, dead Jesus on it, is like, hits me. And I'm like, that's a really good point. He's like, "Why do you think we do it?" He's like, "We do it because the demon knows that I know who he is." Like, straight up. But like, that's like, so many people get super religious when it comes with schizophrenic demons. Like, but they're just, all it is just people that have the gift of discernment of spirits that begin to channel, and they create an open channel, and the demons can just move in and out. So the person's not there. Like, the person is never like they're not in their body. They're not aware. They've become an open channel because of things that they've basically been a part of.
It seems like methamphetamine might give them that ability, or like more readily awaken that in them.
Meth is a very powerful demonic entity channel. And once you've done meth, here's an interesting thing. So like, there's a story of hypnosis of what's that guy? Charles Manson. Charles Manson talks about hypnotizing people. Or there was a guy, Danny Trejo, I think his name is.
Nice.
And
the actor?
Trejo.
Yes. Yeah. He talks about meeting Charles Manson in prison. I'm going to do a video on this. I should have already done that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I would pay money to be a fly on the wall in that interaction.
Well, he says they figured out that that Danny Trejo, they figured out that Charles Manson can hypnotize people and to anything. And so they kept him around their cell or whatever, and like, kind of like protected him because he would get like picked on for some reason. And like, they end up having him hypnotize them to get high on meth or high on, not meth, whatever it is, drugs they did, I forget. Heroin. That was what? High on heroin and weed. And so Charles Manson, so they would just be high all the time. Like, they would just be
not really high.
Not really high. They would hypnotize him into being high. But the interesting thing is, Danny mentions, he was like, "Hey, but one of the guys in the cell, he could only get high on weed. He couldn't get high on heroin." And when Manson would do this stuff, and he was like, asked Manson, he says in the interview, he goes, "Hey, why couldn't you do this to that guy?" And Charles Manson's response was, well, he had never done the drug. So he said, your mind doesn't know how to work when I hypnotize you to being high on heroin. And so like,
that
I guess
pathway hasn't been opened.
yeah, well, the offering hasn't been given. That's the thing.
Interesting.
Once the offering's been given, the demon has that access to you. So if you want to get high on heroin, like immediate, like all the reactions, like Danny Trejo, like would throw up because apparently you throw up when you do heroin or something. And so like he'd have that
great time.
like, yeah. And then you'd be in this state. Right. And so like but like the guy that never done heroin, the demons couldn't enter him because the agreement had not been made. So he couldn't get high on heroin because he'd never done it. But he could be high on weed, and so through the hypnosis, because he had done it. You'd burn that offering. You've eaten that thing. So meth is one of those channeling offerings to demons. There's something in the meth that allows a lot of demonic influences to start evoking into you. And so there is like, it opens up a very powerful portal,
My aunt was so I explained to you before that my grandmother, she was, you know, a self-proclaimed clairvoyant. I think she was into the new age. She used to write papers on remote viewing. And one of her daughters, my aunt, was diagnosed schizophrenic, but she was diagnosed after they used to my I guess mother and some of their friends as well as my aunt would often mess with Ouija boards. I guess this was popular in the 80s. And so you know, allegedly after some weird Ouija board experiences is when my aunt really started to show her schizophrenic tendencies. They always had some suspicions there was something wrong with her, but this is where things really went off the deep end. And she would tell me when she was on her medication that she could, you know, when these things happened to her, when she was visited by an entity, because that's always what it was. It, you know, like you said, it's always biblical. She would tell me that she was visited by the devil, and that when the devil arrived, he would always be preceded by a smell of like sulfur and rotting flesh. And which is interesting because people will describe that same exact smell associated with the Greys during their abduction experiences. They will report a sulfuric rotting flesh smell, which I think is interesting. And that was one of the first
There's
times.
a reason to that smell, I'll tell you.
Please, but that's the end of where it goes for me. I mean, unfortunately, she's doing horribly. She's essentially, because of the medical system in the West, a vagabond.
Yeah, so the way the system's rigged, it's designed to keep demonized people demonized. And like all of the system is. Like they put you on more drugs, which are more offerings to the demon to keep the demons happy. So that way you stay in that state of whatever. So like, or they just abandon you. And like, and so like there is the medical industry is not a help for people that have schizophrenic situations and stuff like this. And so the reality is, like, when it comes to that smell thing, there a lot of people have that experience of the smell, and I believe there's a connection to the bodies of the dead Nephilim that are tethered to those hosts, because not every situation comes with a smell. Because there's demons, there's different kinds of demons. Like there's multiple different kinds of demons, guys. They're not all demons are the deceased Nephilim spirits. There's demons that are born out of you.
If we have time,
all kinds
I'd love for you to like run that down. Like run that down for But please continue.
There's so many different kinds of demons. There's the fallen angel demons. There's the demons that are born out of your sin, out of yourself. They come out of you. And then there's demons that are, that are the deceased Nephilim. The ones that are those guys tend to have some tangible ability. They can manifest more physical reactions and things, like knock things off shelves, like, because they once had that physical body, versus the demons that were never in that physical body. So, and they also have a smell. Those ones have a smell. And their smell is, because I believe it's tethered to their rotting body. Their dead Nephilim body is tethered to that scent. So when they start to manifest into the more physical, you start to smell their bones and wherever their body is rotted from. So they're usually at the bottom of the ocean somewhere, rotting, and smelling terrible. And so there's like this kind of sulfuric smell there at the bottom of the ocean, because there's sulfur pits and stuff too, I'm sure. And so
is that why UFOs come from out of the ocean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's
crazy. This actually this is part of the same topic. I wonder your thoughts on this. There's a character. She's an author and an abductee experiencer. Or abduction experiencer. Her name is Karen Wilkinson. She very much believes that these entities are directly related to the fallen and the Nephilim. And she says she has this firsthand testimony of being aboard these craft or whatever and seeing what's appeared to her to be basically piles of these small grays that were inactive. They're just laying there. And she said they smelled like ass. They smelled disgusting and dirty and rotting. They smelled like rotting flesh. And she theorizes that these things are more like biological husks to be entered temporarily by, these spirits, if you will, and then discarded so that they can interface with our physical reality in a more meaningful degree, like the way that they can possess a human body and gain access to our facilities. And so they drive us to do things because it's what they want to experience, sex and drug use and all these different things. But they can also inhabit these to interact in a very limited capacity with our physical realm. And I go, it's interesting. I like it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's pretty accurate, actually. So, like, you have to understand the genetic links to this. And so, like, I've studied a lot of geneticist stuff and done research with things. And I've been involved in, like, the dinosaur genetic project where they're trying to turn chickens into dinosaurs and stuff with Jack Horner and things. So, like, there's, like, a lot of stuff genetically that I've, like, researched on this sort of topic. And I talk a little bit about it in the documentary Ancient Angels. It kind of explains some of this. But literally, so when a body is born, okay, right now, like if a creature was born, it would grow to a certain point, hatch, whatever, come out, be fine, and a spirit would go into it. That spirit comes from the Lord God. Now, if you take a lizard and you take a bat and you blend it in a zygote stage, it will form a creature. Like right now, you can genetically do this, and it will form a creature and it will grow. Okay, it's called transmutation or transgenesis. And you could put the bat genetics in there and try to make a little mini dragon looking thing. And you could grow this creature. It would start to form. It would grow and grow and grow. Or you can even make a chimera, which is when there's a difference between a hybrid and a chimera. I guess you should probably know the difference between this. So the things on Egypt where they have a bird head but a human body, that's a chimera. Okay, a hybrid is when you take a horse and a donkey and you blend it and it produces a mule, right? And it's a hybrid. So if you were to take the genetic code of that creature, it's something looks like in between the two. It's a little mixed between the two. And if you take the genetic makeup of it, it will tell you it's horse and donkey. It will tell you everything. Now a chimera is when you take a creature, like you could take a red robin and a blue jay and you can blend them in the zygote stage and it will form a creature as well. Now that creature will come out and you could say the half of it is blue jay and then its head is robin. The bottom half is blue jay and the head is robin. Now if you were to take just genetic code from its head, it will tell you it's a robin 100%, and if you took it from its body, it will tell you it's a blue jay 100%. That's a chimera. Okay, and so chimerism is when two things are joined in one body, and there's people that can have chimeric responses. There's actually people that have like body where it's like they have two tones of skin where it's like, and you can see the half of their skin is one way and the other half is another way. That's chimerism. And so that's when the genetic joins as one body, but it's two genetic makeup things. Like the Lord will still honor that in a lot of cases and put a spirit in it, okay, if it's a human, right? And so when something is, though, animal and human, the Lord doesn't honor it. And so the Lord doesn't put a spirit. So like right now, there's in the news, you could read about the first monkey human hybrid that's been released or that they tried to grow in a zygote stage. Here's what happens. You can mix the two creatures and two animals that are too different. It also won't work in certain situations. If they're close enough, it'll work. If they're too far apart, it doesn't work. The Lord doesn't honor that and puts a spirit in it. So what happens if you mix the two creatures, like the bat and the lizard or the monkey and the human, it will grow a creature. It will grow a creature up to the point of birth, and suddenly it will die. And science can't figure out why. We don't know why. You can't give birth to a monkey-human hybrid. It will grow up to the point of birth, and you'll fully form parts of it and everything, and then it will just die. And it will have random reasons for why it died. Like the heart will just stop beating, its brain will just not form, like parts of it will just die. It just will cease to exist. Now, my theory is that literally the Lord sees that, well, that's not a lizard and that's not a bat. So I'm not going to put a lizard spirit or a bat spirit into that. So it's going to just die. And like God doesn't put his breath into these creatures. Now, same thing with the human. It's so like the grays are basically human mixed with lizards, mixed with dolphins, mixed with animals, mixed with all these kind of animal genetic sequencing mixed in to make it as human as possible, but to prevent the Lord from putting a human spirit into it. And then at that stage, they're trying to get it to be as close to us as it can. But at that stage, when it's so close to human, but it's not human enough that the Lord's going to honor it and put a spirit in it, it's now an empty vessel. And so the moment that creature grows, and it's about to die, the demons will conjure and put their own spirit into it, and then give it breath and give it life. And then that thing will grow and be born, but that has, rather than the breath of God in it, it has a demon's breath of life put into it. And that's what the grays are. The grays are a mix of human, animal, genetic hybridization to the point where the Lord won't honor it. He's not going to put a spirit in it. So they interject their own spirit. And it happens at the stage of gestation. It happens usually like before, like, it's like I think it's like 80% is when about the creature will die. And that's usually like people that talk about giving birth to aliens. It usually comes before the creature is even, like, it'd be like a preemie baby, you know. It becomes like, they say that it gets taken out of them before but early. It's only like 6 months in when the creature gets taken, or, you know, or whatever. That's because that's about the time when the creature's breath of life, the Lord puts the spirit fully into it, and then it begins to die, basically. And so a lot of these creatures, I think, they're born with demons in them, and then they get grown, and because the spirit of breath of life of the demon is in it, it can grow to a certain size. It grows probably pretty fast, I would imagine. And they get to that stage, and then they can either have another demon enter that thing and use it because they're more spiritually attuned. They can leave that body and it falls on the ground and then just sits there, and maybe they like keep it alive to some degree and then re-enter it when they want to animate it. Like, it's totally possible, because there's a lot of people that have been reanimated by demons, like after the person's left the body. I've heard many interesting, strange stories of this kind of occurrence. So yeah, this
it would
is
make
definitely
a lot of sense too, because it's not like these things, and I know there's some comedy in this, but like what function do you think it would serve for these entities to worry about cleaning these? It's like they are biological, they are made of flesh and bone, but they're certainly not going through like the gray car wash when they're you know, being emptied and put to the side, you know. So that kind of makes a lot of sense why she would have this. And it's not Karen Wilkinson wasn't the only person that I've ever heard report this. This is something that, when you look at these abduction experiences or experiences of fantastic nature, one of the important things, I think, is to draw through lines, to recognize patterns. And one of the patterns you do get, though not as common as, you know, maybe the fundamental patterns of sleep paralysis and the presence of, you know, shadow entities and things of that nature, there are ones that happen to a lesser degree but are still patterns. And one of those is this, you know, this smelling of the rotting flesh, the sulfur, and also seeing bodies that seem to be inactive, that are not occupied by anything. And that goes right along with the idea of when people say there's no genitalia on these entities, there seems to be no emotional aspect to these entities. They almost seem and behave like machines. They have a job to do, whether it's to secure, you know, the victim and bring them through this process or what have you. They seem to be automatons in very many ways. So all of this does, in my opinion, play together very well.
Yeah, they're hunting down people that have remnant Nephilim genetic sequencing. That's what they've been doing, and that's what the whole 23andMe agenda was. Like, it was literally to find more people with genetic Nephilim DNA sequencing. So that way they can get to the point where they can have enough angel DNA that they can resurrect a body that doesn't look gray, that looks mostly human, but it's got enough angel DNA that the Lord won't put a spirit in it, that they can re-inhabit. They're trying to recreate a body that is usable, more usable and more human-like than they can make it. You know, there seems to be a limit between the most humanistic looking and God honoring it with a spirit, or an empty void vessel that they can inhabit.
What do you make of the board of 23andMe all quitting at the same time, like last week?
Yeah, I didn't know that they quit last week.
Every single one of them.
Dude, yeah, right. I think the day after
Diddy
was arrested. They, I mean, every single one except for one, I believe, all quit.
Wow. Well, that's very alarming. That's really interesting because I would tell you that maybe they've all figured out what this plan was about, and maybe they either wanted nothing to do with it, or maybe they've already accomplished what they were trying to do. And now they've come to that understanding. 23andMe board resigns. Wow.
Every member except the CEO.
Except
resigned in disgust.
Resigned in disgust. That's interesting. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
What do you think then, Bryan, of
terrible.
This idea? This is something that we explore every Friday. This idea that there is an effort being made to resurrect Nimrod.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you can look up the WikiLeaks articles where it talks about what's her name, Hillary Clinton was trying to find the burial chamber of Gilgamesh or whatever. Yeah. And so, like, there's been the effort has always been, there's different types of grays, right? There's the small little green guys, right? And then there's the tall grays, and then there's the whatever, the people that look, you know, mostly human, the ethereal ones, the Nordics. Yeah, right. So these different variations, the Nordics are like kind of the level of whatever they're trying to get to, or the most humanistic looking versions of them that still retain their authority and their power and their Nephilim genetics. Because there's a difference. Like here's the thing. Like, if you go throughout history when it talks about Nephilim and these creatures, like, they can't speak with words. And I'm going to tell you the really important part. Remember how I was explaining to you, like, your words matter? Yeah. Like, the Nephilim speak, or the aliens speak through your mind, right? In almost every instance. They don't have an authority in this reality. They do not have their ability to prophesy into this reality. And if you look up ancient stories about all the half-breed creatures, like centaurs and Pan and all these creatures, none of them could speak. They couldn't speak with words. They spoke in your mind. That's how they communicated.
This show is brought to you by the Van Man Company. If you're like me, then you're constantly trying to avoid products that contain harmful chemicals, especially when it comes to skincare and hygiene. From fluoride in the toothpaste to aluminum in the deodorants, avoiding these products can become a full-time job. That's why we're excited to team up with the Van Man Company to bring our listeners a solution. The Van Man Company offers a range of incredible products, like their Miracle Tooth Powder, made from natural ingredients like peppermint oil, ancient sea salt, and baking soda. And the best part? It's 100% fluoride-free. They even offer an aloe mouth rinse. Or how about their tallow and zinc sunscreen, made from ingredients like organic olive oil, organic beeswax, and 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef tallow. And there's more. With products like tallow and honey soap, coconut and magnesium deodorant, and peppermint beeswax lip balm, you can't go wrong. From head to toe, the Van Man has you covered. Listeners of this show can use promo code Nephilim at checkout to receive 10% their entire order at vanman.shop, or you can click on the link in the description below. That's promo code Nephilim, Nephiliim, for 10% off your entire order at vanman.shop. From head to toe, the Van Man has you covered. Dude, that's great, because we're constantly talking about, Ed Mabry is telling us, like, the way that you engage, we're all engaged in spiritual warfare. The way that you engage is with your words, with your speech.
Yep.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, so demons and Nephilim can't prophesy. They cannot speak into this earth. And in fact, if you look up the ancient word in Chinese for beast, which is Nephilim, by the way, and you look at the ancient Chinese word, it actually shows mouth. It shows two mouths, and then it shows a line. It shows one mouth, and then it shows the garden, and then it just shows one mouth only. So, like, their symbol is two mouths before the Garden of Eden, after the Garden of Eden, one mouth, and it's identifying speech. That's their word for beast or Nephilim. It's identifying speech. And you're like, that's really strange. Like, why is it identifying? Well, that's because in all ancient stories, all ancient history, anything that's been a hybrid, it couldn't talk with words. It couldn't prophesy. Like, God inhibited the speech from these creatures to exist.
Dude, this is
Or
right on
Bigfoot.
par, though. That's exactly where I was going,
Yeah.
Top. Every time somebody has a cryptid encounter, whether it's a dogman or it's a Bigfoot, these things are telepathically communicating with them.
Well,
Yep.
Dogman, I know Dogman generally doesn't communicate. It's just like a
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
just like an
fearsome.
attack
But
dog or some shit.
I've heard multiple times of Bigfoot people like they're like, oh, he's actually quite kind, and he communicated me telepathically. I'm like, that was a demon, dude.
Yeah, that's like straight up. But that's because they're not allowed to be here. They're not supposed to be here, and the Lord's limited their ability to prophesy.
It's
So
really,
they can't speak.
I wanted to bring it up too because this is something we've never talked about, but I've seen it a lot, and you just addressed it. The Chinese symbols for words, especially words that you'll find in the Bible, and their Chinese translation will actually be made up of symbols that are so relevant to the Bible.
To the Bible. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
like, whoa, like. What the hell did they know that they're making up their words? You know, their word is encompassed by one symbol, but really there's several symbols in one symbol. And the way they, I highly recommend people look into that because
I have a
is
book I'm
something-
doing on that actually.
Really, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I could see why you would do a book on it because I've seen enough examples where I'm like, oh no, like when they designed this language, honestly, in kind of many ways, it's superior to the English language, or at least our alphabet, just because of that aspect. It's like this is an ancient language that one word, just through symbols, is made up of so many important biblical components that it's actually profound when you see it. You're like, really?
yeah.
I had no idea.
Yep, it's so fast. I could talk about this subject for we have to be on another show for that subject, but like that one's like so fascinating. I'm writing some book on it and making some stuff about it because it's like it's so important for people to know. But like it also preludes into the concept that at one point the entire world was Christian, and like at one point the entire world came under the understanding like we reset the calendar and everybody agreed to resetting the calendar. For what reason? Why? Because they all believed in Jesus. At a certain point, something happened. And there was an authority. And so Satan is just coming into this world right now, deceiving us, thinking that we're back in the wrong time zone where demons have authority over us. They don't. They do not have authority over you. You can speak them out of your life. You can command them. You order them. They obey what you say. Okay? And so there's people that you have to come into that understanding that like the Greys only have authority and the aliens can only abduct people that are speaking these negative things over themselves.
Dude,
like
I'll tell
they're
you what,
saying
though,
it.
Brian, I mean, look, man, I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but
Yeah,
like,
no.
honestly, this last like 10 minutes just blew my mind because when people have these experiences and these things are speaking with them telepathically, that actually is shocking to people. And they think that it's indicative of strength. But in
No,
reality, it's a
the
display
total
of their
opposite.
weaknesses.
Yes, completely, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That puts the entire experience on its head.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I explain this stuff to a lot of people that like try to understand that are dealing with these kind of experiences, and it helps a lot with that understanding. It's literally they are incapable of speak. They are incapable of prophesying. They are incapable of making things in this reality because God is bound to them. So, and it's very fascinating because you read Josephus's writings. Josephus even talks about these creatures existing. And I don't know if you know who Josephus is, but Josephus is the reason why we believe the Bible is valid, because he was a historian who was also a Jewish historian who wrote in Roman for the Roman record when the events that happened after Jesus died. And bro, let me tell you what, you read that book and you'll realize that Revelation, a lot of what Revelation talks about already happened, and it is alarming. And people don't know what happened after Jesus died. People don't read about what happened after Jesus died. They just think, oh, Jesus died and 2,000 years later, we're here. No, fool. Like there is a year of darkness. The whole earth went black and the sun stopped shining for a year and a half, bro. 18 months of darkness. Google it. And like, you can like look it up. Like, dude, like the time zone and the things that are happening that we think the world's just been as it is not at all what was.
This is going into the little season theory, right? We actually need
Oh,
to
yeah.
have JT, who you collaborated with on the documentary Ancient Angels. We need to have him back on because we did an episode that was sort of a rebuttal. First, we did a little season episode, and it was tremendous. It was him and Paul Stobbs. It was a great episode. And then we had on Ed Mabry, who was a skeptic who shared his rebuttal for some of the evidence. But since then, I've looked over, and JC has simply not stopped. He's just mounting more and more evidence to support his theory.
There's one
me and JT
scripture.
were the one. Yeah.
Sorry, there's just one scripture in Revelation that kind of does put a big flat tire on that one for me, because I like the theory, but I think that it's the one where like all the mountains are flattened and crumbled.
Yes, and all the islands are gone.
Yeah, like things like that. We would be able to see that even if it's 2,000 years later or so.
Yeah, especially because a lot of the mountain ranges predate Jesus, and so it seems like if they're still here.
Yeah, like when Jesus goes to Mount Hermon and he's basically mocking that's still there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like they're things, you know.
So there's spiritual words and there's physical components to these kind of things. So some people think that's a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing, and like people don't understand. Like it says that when John the Baptist comes, it says he will pave the way and flatten the mountains as well. And so John the Baptist already came and went. Like, where's the flat mountains? Like John the Baptist came. Like, bro, like the thing is like there's a lot of things in the Bible that, and the narrative that I've recognized in people that think that Revelation is still coming versus people that think it may have already happened, well, which is now starting to pop up and people are starting to realize, hey, what's going on is not exactly what we think is going on. And this is something me and JT started in the beginning. Like we were just having this conversation. I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure Revelation happened. I started talking to him and he's just like gone way into it. And like, we've just started digging into it. And like, bro, the stuff that I'm like, you start to realize when you start looking into history, you realize like, oh my gosh, we have been lied to by so many things, and our timeline's off and everything's completely off. Like, but the metaphysical, this is the problem. A lot of people think the things in Revelation are spiritual that are physical, and they think the physical things are spiritual. And that's the verse. You have to basically say, okay, if it's a physical thing, maybe there's a spiritual meaning to it. And it's very clear to understand that more of it is spiritual than physical, because Jesus himself says, my kingdom is not of this world. He tells you it's not of this world. And he says, you know that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. If I cast out demons by the finger of God, you know that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, he says. And so when you're like, okay, well, what's that mean? It's invisible. He's telling you it's invisible. So everybody's like waiting for like a physical kingdom. But the reality is it's a spiritual kingdom that we can't necessarily see. And so that's kind of what a lot of things I've noticed, that when you get into this argument, you're like, well, where does this physically happen? Where is it? No, that's a spiritual verse. So like, that's a spiritual understanding about these things being laid waste. And they are laid waste, because I have an authority that you say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast in the sea, and it will obey you. What mountains is he talking about? He's talking about physical mountains? What's he talking about when Jesus said that? You know what I'm saying? I'd
love for you and like Ed to come and hash this out, because this is a very important subject. Because if we do go through, let's say your theory is correct, and we do go through a 7-year tribulation and Jesus comes back, people that believe the little season theory will look at Jesus, because every eye will see this. And if it's replicated again by whatever entities that want to replicate it, they'll look at Jesus and they'll turn around. And if you're wrong and that happens and Jesus comes back and those people look at Jesus and turn around, that's a big deal. Like, a lot of people are going to miss that. So this needs to be, I've been like, I've been commenting on JT when he puts up his reels and stuff. I'm like, hey, come back on the show. This needs to be sorted out, because this is really important. If somebody is wrong here, if someone's incorrect, there's a lot of people that can miss the boat, be led astray.
One of those things, though, that I don't have the ability to address logically is, like, there was a time in history, and there is historical writings about this, where we had, like, what was it, like a bout of darkness for...
That's in the
18
Bible.
months.
Right, 18 months though, dude. Like, what are we talking? Like, what I'll
but
say to that
in the
is,
Bible also, like, the sun was out for like 5 days during a battle.
Yes,
I think it was like 5 to 7 days. I don't remember the scripture.
So it's like they stretched one day to 5 to whatever, however many days it was. So like, when you have that moment in history that is recorded where it's dark for how
the year 531 or something like that, where all the mountains, all the volcanoes erupted. There was just disease.
I'm supposed to not.
Pompeii is that time as well.
Right, and it's like everything that happens here is inherently biblical. Everything that happens on Earth and with human beings is inherently biblical. So the idea that moment in time, which would, throw the world into chaos. It would throw the world into chaos. I mean, not only is it physically happening and the sun is gone, but people are losing their shit. the idea that that wouldn't be addressed somewhere in the Bible seems unlikely to me, because it's such a tremendous moment in human history. And so, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be addressed, and I don't even know if doing a back and go ahead.
Like if the Jews are still chosen, why is like them all like not written biblically, and something like God just is like, oh, okay, we're gonna forget about them, I guess.
That's an interesting point too. I mean, I guess if you were to
so
write
many
down
things in history that are like that.
yeah, and
like,
if you were to
why
try to
didn't God
record
stop
everything, it would be the book would be impossible to get through, right? I mean, there is that point.
But I mean, listen, no matter if this is like little season time or like a revelation time, the thing about the Jews is like, who are they really? Like we don't know. We still don't know.
We could have a whole subject. I've got a whole lot of stuff. You can read.
We've done entire episodes on it, and I don't think we're going to stop because we still don't have an answer.
Oh, there's an answer. There's an answer. 2 Kings. It talks about these people that says that they were brought in, and they took over the Jews and kicked the Jews out of the area. And it says, and then the lions started coming in and eating them. And they said, what is going on? Go fetch one of the high priests of those Jewish people that we kicked out and teach us how to honor their God so that the lions stop eating us. Okay, and so they go and fetch a Jewish priest. The Jewish priest teaches them how to honor the Lord. And it says that these people began to honor the Lord, Yahweh, but secretly worship their own gods. They began to honor God, but secretly kept their traditions. It says this in 2 Kings. And so these people took on the personification of the Jews in 2 Kings. And literally it talks about what they did. And it says that they literally became the Jews. And that's why if you look up any Jewish temple right now, if you type in Jewish temple zodiac in your phone, you look at Google Images, all the Jewish temples, they have zodiacs at the bottom of their thing, at the bottom of in the tiles and the floors of all the Jewish temples.
So who is this a remnant of then, Bryan? Are these the Khazarians? Are these the Edomites?
Well, no, they're the Ashkenazis. They're the Ashkenazis. So like, yeah, look, that's at the bottom of the Jewish temples, like right now.
Right.
And so like that's at every temple. Like you can look at multiple images. Yes, it's paganism in the Jewish temples. Why? Because the Jews that taught it, that's why Jesus said, you're not of your father. If you were of your father, you would have recognized me. He says, you're of your father, the devil. He says it to the Jews at the time. So
this is the, right? That's where this verse
that's what
becomes.
He's saying. Yeah, yes. Exactly. And so, and it doesn't, and if you look up the historical component to this, you realize these were the Jews that said they were Jews and are not, the Bible says, right? In Revelation 2:9, it says they are Jews, but they are not. It literally says that. And if you look up the historical thing, the Ashkenazi Jews, they're from the line of Ashkenaz. Who's Ashkenaz? Do you know who Ashkenaz is in the Bible?
No.
Yeah, so if you type in Ashkenaz lineage, Noah, Shem, Ham, or Japheth. And so like if you look at the lineages of Noah, Shem, and Japheth, the three that got off the boat, there is one of the sons of Japheth is Gomer, and the son of Gomer is Ashkenaz. That is not from the line of Shem, where we get the word anti-Shemitic. Anti-Shem from the line of Semites, right? The Semite is from the line of Shem, anti-Shemitic, anti-Semitic. So they're from the line of Japheth, the Ashkenazi Jews are. So they're not anti-Semitic, they're anti-Japhetic. There you go, look. So Seth, okay, Noah, that's from, let's see here. Shem, no, we need the lineage after Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So the lineage after that. Okay, can you scroll down? Maybe that has a longer picture part. I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
So yeah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth's, the lineage of those three, you'll see that there's a son on Japheth's line. So to say anything against the Ashkenazi Jews is, see, there you go, at Gomer. Look, the far left line. So Shem is where we get Eber, which are the Hebrews and all the people down the middle line, right? Japheth to the left, Gomer, Ashkenaz. Okay, this is the Ashkenazi Jews, the Nazis. Oh, the Ashkenazi Jews. They killed off the Shemitic Jewish lineage. This is what was hunting down the non-Jewish, the pure Jews to them. That's why it was called what's the definition of
burnt offering?
A burnt offering, yes.
When you burn the amiibos, yeah.
Yes, so it was a burnt offering. He was making of the Shemitic Jewish, yeah, exactly. just making of the Jews. Like that's literally, and it's ironic that we even call it Like, it's so ignorant. Like, if you read it in any other language, people know what it means in certain languages, and like in like Italy and stuff, you know, people can read it and they're like, oh, that means this. You know, we call it, we are ignorant of it and we don't recognize that it means this. That's what we're calling it, because that's what it was. And you know what he was doing? He was hunting down people that were pure Shemitic Jews to make sure that only the Ashkenazi lineage survived. The Ashkenazi lineage, okay? And what did they do? The Nazis were the people from Ashkenaz, Germany, where they took over a region of Germany and they renamed it Ashkenaz on the maps, like the area right next to Germany. They renamed the whole area Ashkenazi. That's what they called it. And that's where the Ashkenazis came from. They came from the area of Ashkenazi Germany, like in that region. And it's on old maps. You can look up an old map, Ashkenaz near Germany. And then so like you can see like it's kind of hard to find now, I'm sure, but like there used to be a bunch of stuff where it said it. And so like you see it clearly, that's where they came from. And they were hunting down the Shemitic Jewish lineage and killing them off so that there was no more humans, no more Jews left. And one of the things he was doing was he was seeing measuring those skulls. You see the things measuring skulls and like doing all that stuff. Like, bro, he was measuring the skulls to find the pure Jews. And he was measuring people's teeth. So you'll see people that have like, they'll see like there's a depiction of like afraid of a skull. And it's like the teeth are straight. And you're like, what is that? What's he talking? What's that image depicting? Well, he was hunting down people that didn't have canine teeth. Because if you're pure, and you can look up the old Jewish skulls that they use, type in Jewish measuring skulls, they don't have canine teeth, bro. Because they don't have Canaanite blood in them. Because they're not from the line. They're not from the line of Canaan. So if you have canine teeth in your mouth, like I do, like you have Canaanite blood in you.
Damn it.
Like you have Canaanite, like you're a Gentile. You're a, you know, it's not you're not Jewish in bloodline. Nobody is. No, the Jews have been wiped out. The Jews were completely decimated. Anybody today that says they're Jewish, you're a liar, because they've all been exterminated. They've all been killed. Everyone has now like Gentile blood in you. Like that's like everybody has this. Like everybody's Canaanized.
So if that's already happened, is that I feel like I'm about to get into the weeds here, and I know we're already at the 2-hour mark. But if that's already happened,
no, this is fascinating because this is getting into Dust and Nemo.
Oh,
everyone's gonna die.
Guys. No,
it's getting into Dust and Nemo's territory.
Don't curse that. Nobody's gonna die.
That's right. Obadiah, right? Is that the verse Obadiah something or another? The one where it's talking about I'm gonna butcher it.
The wheat from the tares.
Yeah, I think something of that nature.
Well, yeah. So what I'm kind of getting at is like, all right. So if everyone's blood is tainted, it's like how much blood are Nephilim redeemable?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, please explain. I know. Listen, we got you for 2 hours, but it's like, all right. Well, now you've.
Jesus said, "Go and preach this message to every creature." Every creature. He didn't say to every person. He says to every creature. And that word is nephesh. Okay? By the way, in Hebrew, the word translation, even though it's not in Hebrew, is Greek. But if you retranslate into Hebrew, the word is nephesh because it's referring to Nephilim, bro. It's saying to every creature. And so like right now, look up Jesus surrounded by dog people. Jesus, dog-headed people. Just type in Jesus, dog-headed people. That'll probably bring something up.
Okay. Dog-headed people. Is this like a St. Christopher kind of thing?
Kind of.
Okay. Let's see what we got
Do you
here.
see it? Do you see the image of Jesus that's literally like...
This one here.
That's it. There you go. Look at that. So that's what time actually was. That's what things were like, and like there's more. You can look at other images. Just go to the Google search. What is that? Like, what does Jesus say to the woman at the Canaanite woman, bro? The Canaanite woman. Look at that. Look at that picture right there. Stop. Go up. Left. Do you see that those? What are those dogs worshiping? Yeah.
Yeah, they're worshiping like a calf.
They're
or
worshiping
like
Baal. They're Canaanites, bro. That's what a Canaanite is.
What the hell?
Bro, this is why. Look, notice that they all have armor on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're Canaanites. This is where we get the word knight in shining armor. Why do you think the word knight has a silent K at the beginning of it? It's a Canaanite because they were Canaanites. Look at that. Look at that. And you scroll up. These things really actually existed.
Oh,
Show
no,
him,
for sure.
show him.
There was, I know that there's been
Show him
like
the Baal one. Show him the Baal one.
Look at this.
Look, there. So the dog people are worshiping Baal. Who are those dog people? Those are Canaanites. Those are Canaanites worshiping Baal, bro. The dog-headed people are the Canaanites, which is where we get the word knight in shining armor, right? The knight, because what happened was etymologically it broke down to Canaanite. That's why there's a silent K in front of the word knight, because they were originally Canaanites. They were Canaanites. Wait, go back to the images and show him. Your mic's on mute. Go back to the images and show him.
Isn't there a saint that used to be depicted with the?
Yes, yeah. Look at this. Look,
Saint
so
Christopher,
Jesus
right.
is covered with, surrounded by dog heads, but notice that they all have armor on.
Yes.
Look at why do the Canaanites all have armor on? Like, and if you look up suits of armor, they're not for humans, bro. Suits of armor were for people that had unusual faces. Okay, unusual heads. Like, get out of that image and scroll down. Look. So they all have suits of armor. Look, they've got a spear in his hand. He's got an armor on. What did the Nephilim teach men? Oh yeah, metallurgy. Mm-hmm. Look at the little armor standing next to Jesus right there. That one top right. That dog one, right over one.
This
That's
one right
Jesus.
here?
That's Jesus right there. Standing next to, so he's a Canaanite. He's a Canaanite. So so this is what everybody, like, there was dog. Why does Jesus say to the woman at the thing? He says, "What are you, a dog?" to the Canaanite woman? That's kind of rude. Why would Jesus say that? What are you, a dog? Because she freaking was a Canaanite. She had canine teeth. She probably had dog hair and face looking features. Like,
There was even men with lion faces, right?
Yes. Type in werewolf syndrome. And then look and type it in and type in old werewolf syndrome images. And then so, like, when you look at this, you can type in werewolf syndrome now today, you can still see remnants of it, and you'll see these kids that have hair on just their face.
Yeah.
And it's like those are descendants. That's Canaanite blood coming out right there.
That sucks.
But guess what? Look, notice how it's just on that guy's face?
Yeah.
Look at that. So, like, when you see this stuff, this is Canaanite blood. These people were originally that dog-headed dude. Okay, like their great-great-great-great-grandfather looked like a dog.
Like
That's why India is so messed up, man. India's still messing with that.
Look, and notice how it
Nephilim
just
stuff.
grows mostly on their face, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, this is Canaanite blood. Okay, and if you type in, so, like, look at knight in shining armor. Type in knight armor, helmet.
Oh, they always have seemingly like an extended face, as if almost to make room for, maybe a muzzle. Well,
these are the
Templar.
Crusades.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so look, those are for humans. Stop right there. Not human. Look at the way these are tapered. That's somebody made that. But you can close out of that one. The one to the right, the other one.
This one
that
here?
one. Yeah, both of those two to the right. Yeah, but that's not a human face, bro. Like, that's a tapered
Has a snout.
dog snout. Look, scroll down more.
Yeah, even this
So,
one
like,
kinda
okay,
has
look
like
at
a snout.
look at that one right there. Yeah, look at that one right there. Look at that.
That in particular.
What is that, bro? What is that? They have snouts, bro. Like, when you start look. You think that's for humans? No.
That is interesting. Yeah.
These
that
are
one's
not. Look at
interesting.
that one right there. Another one.
Okay, all right. This is getting.
These are
that's
not-
crazy.
These are not for humans. Look at the far right one. The bottom. Oh, look. Yeah, again. Look at this. You think, how's a human going to look out that visor, bro? How's a human going to look at that stuff? Scroll down. Look. Okay, so that one's human. You can tell that one's human because it's flat-faced, right?
Yeah.
So that one's obviously a human-esque feature. There's another flat-faced one. But, bro, like these are not these. What is that? You think that was made for a human, bro?
I mean, it could possibly be made for a human now, but they're signifying something that this was
original
this way.
intent,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they had this. Interesting.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
way
there's
all
there's-
suits of armor are like this, dude. By the way, there's like, you look up the older the suit of armor, the more the protruded the faces.
There's somebody, maybe you'd be interested in talking to him. I don't know if you have, but Joel Thomas does a show called Free the Rabbits.
Free the Rabbits.
And he is really great on the idea that, like what you're saying here, there was an entire race of dog people, and that Saint Christopher was one of these people, and he was redeemed. So this is actually the basis for Joel's explanation as to how the Nephilim can be redeemed as well. It's that he points to Saint Christopher as being one of these examples.
There's some books and like literary papers of like older clergy in the church where they are debating each other back and forth on if these entities that were around at the time, because they're actively talking about, is like, can they receive salvation? What should we do as the church? And I'm not sure how it's resolved, but they're having the argument the same way we're having this discussion today. Like, hey, do these things have a soul? What the hell are these things?
Yes.
Well, they're okay. This is my next part of coming out in my documentary, but I'll tell you right now, they're Gentiles, bro. What do you think Gentile means, bro? Like, what do you think? You think it just means Gentile means like non-Jew? No, it means giantile. It means descendant of giants. Giantile. This is what it means.
Are you saying the Talmud is not so bad then when they're like treat the Gentile, treat
like
the Goyim?
Animals. Yes, because they were not genetically human. You were giantile. You've heard the expression gentle giant. It's not gentle giant. It's gentile giant. This is what it means. And I can show you a ton of words about this connection here. But like, yes, that's literally what it's alluding to. So like the Gentiles meant you were not fully human. It meant you were. And so what does Paul say? Yeah, the Gentiles could receive forgiveness. Like, and if you type in, like, dude, you can see the depictions of the Gentiles. And type in, what is it? Caiaphas. Let's type in Caiaphas, Peter, James, and John. Peter, James, and John painting to the Gentiles. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to bring it up. Type in like Peter, James, and John meet dog, giant dog man.
It's like right on the nose. Meet dog man. That's a crazy. I would never have typed that into Google, but I guess here we go.
Let me see if I can find it.
It's funny because I could see they're giving you that children's cartoon Dogman, which I think is just hilarious. That
dude,
it's
right?
Really obfuscated any attempts to try to see anything having to do with Dogman. You get this child's cartoon.
Maybe like a dog-headed. I'm not pulling anything up here.
I'm trying to find it. Painting. I guess type in painting of dog-headed man. And I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Can you describe it to us? What would it
Here it
have
is.
been?
Okay.
Oh, you got it. What
So
did you type in?
Dog-headed, high res. It's this. So like, I don't know. It looks like this.
1 second. Let me.
What did you type in? You typed in dog-headed high res. It's kind of focusing. Okay, yeah, I see 3 little people and 2 gigantic people, and one of them has a dog head.
Yeah, Peter, James, and John. And who's that behind Peter, James, and John? Is
that Jesus?
Caiaphas.
Okay.
That's Mother Mary. And so like, why is Mother Mary like
15 feet tall?
Yeah, we're like, what? It's not Mother Mary. Sorry, it's Mary the Magdalene, the prostitute.
Okay.
Because she was a Gentile. She was a giantile. Okay, a
what?
descendant of giants. Yes, and so like and then you can see the same, and so they're going to the dog people. Here it is again. Look at that. Why is the Mary Magdalene a giant with the little hobbit-sized Peter, James, and John's?
Interesting.
Like what is, what is this sort of, again? Here it is again.
Huh.
So, like, people don't understand this. Let me fix my camera's focus. People don't understand this stuff because they don't read their history books. But, like, so when you see these old paintings and stuff, like, it's depicting something that actually was. There was dog-headed people that existed. They were the Gentiles. And if you have canine teeth in your mouth, guess what? There's some of their blood is in you. You're a Canaanite. You're a canine. Where do you think we get the word canine from? Like, it's Canaanize. Canine. So like that's where the genetic blood, the Nephilim blood, has seeped into so many of us at this point. Like you,
Interesting.
like it's everybody's like, where's the Nephilim, dude? They're in all of us now at this point. Like it said, until the fullness of the Gentile age has come in, bro. What is the fullness of the Gentile age? When you all are Nephilim, when you all got Nephilim blood.
As in the days of Noah.
Yeah, everybody's Nephilimized now. You all have canine teeth.
So we better hope that they're redeemable.
Yeah,
Dude, and
exactly.
if you're not Nephilim, I mean, so I guess they're just trying to make you more Nephilim, like with certain
there's
shots and things like this.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like to some degree, they want you to become a more suitable host for the possessionable experience. But like the thing is, there's people that believe that they're of a higher Nephilim lineage. Yeah, giant tiles. Okay,
Giant tiles.
It's not Gentile, it's giantile, descendant of giants. So like that's what it means, and like people just don't understand that terminology. But like when it comes to this kind of stuff, and this is my next documentary, we'll be breaking this all down. And so Ancient Angels, watch it. You can watch more about this. It'll be out very soon, and then it'll be on Amazon Prime soon too. But right now it's just online. So, but anyways, yeah, the on Vimeo. So ancientangels.com. But either way, the the thing is, like when you learn this stuff and you start understanding it, everything starts making perfect sense. And like there's people today, like I'm doing a video on Oprah right now talking about it, which I don't know if you guys know, but Oprah supposedly has 6 toes. And you're like,
yeah, I've heard
What?
that, yeah.
so why does Oprah have 6 toes and 6 fingers? Why does the man at
She's a
Gath have 6
bitch.
toes? Why does the man at Gath have 6 toes and 6 fingers? Like, well, because the Nephilim were inbreeding to keep their Nephilimized bloodline more genetically pure. Okay, they were trying to Nephilimize their bloodlines to be, and so the 23andMe, they found all the Nephilim bloodlines. I'm sure, like the 23andMe thing, they found it all, realized what it is. They're extrapolating the 23andMe data now, and they're going to be using it with something. And so like they're going to be Nephilimizing people with a new or some kind of terrible thing or whatever, and trying to bring back enough Nephilim genetics to where, like, I mean, the mark of the beast, like we call it the mark of the beast, but really, what is a beast? It's a Nephilim.
Right.
It's the
It
mark
talks
of the
about
Nephilim.
The beasts of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the mark of the Nephilim, bro. They're Nephilimizing your blood, trying to get you to like, and I believe that, is even connected to this. I think is a form, their first attempt to try to Nephilimize, create some mark of the beast. That's why I was drawn from monkeys.
So this is like to wake up potentially some latent gene.
Yeah, basically, it was an attempt and that's why it's unredeemable for those that receive some kind of mark. It's like the mark genetically makes you out of your body, takes you out of your body. You'll probably become more spiritually aware or something. There's some kind of authority that comes with this, I'm sure, or some kind of agreement. But either way, like this is all tethered to the Nephilim sequence sort of genetic anomalies. But like Oprah has 6 fingers and 6 toes. We know that, and that's a defect of polydactylism. So that means is a defect of inbreeding. Inbreeding. So if you inbreed, there's people in the Jewish or the what is it called, the Amish community, how a lot of people have 6 toes and 6 fingers from inbreeding. And so you're like, okay, well that's an inbreeding defect. And so like she has that. Why? Because she's from the lineage that was trying to purify their bloodlines and make them more pure or whatever, make them more Nephilimized, make them more genetically sound. But then there's so many things about Oprah when it comes to that kind of stuff that like you realize like she's involved in all kinds of like terrible human trafficking instances and all kinds of weird wacky stuff.
Look, here you go. You have Oprah's 6 toes right here. And there was a time, I would say maybe 2000 and
What the hell?
Yeah, 2018, Oprah all of a sudden she gets whipped up in the media. One of her mansions has been seized, and the entire thing is caution taped off, and the initial headlines read that Oprah has been wrapped up in a human trafficking scandal. And very quickly those headlines go away, and then all of a sudden it goes, false alarm, her mansion was just under construction, and that's what the construction tape was for. And it just gets swept under the rug. But this is right before, or right during, really, the height of the Pizzagate scandals and everything. So I don't think that was an accident at all. I think that probably was more truth than not.
Oh yeah,
listen,
absolutely.
Guys, listen, this episode has gone on too long.
2 hours and 15
This is crazy. We're giving these
have
people.
you back on.
Yes.
Bring me back on, bro. There's so much more.
Yeah, there's so much, especially in the way of giants. I'm really, really interested in going back. We've kind of been revisiting a lot of our roots these past couple episodes on the show here, because obviously the show is called Nephilim Death Squad. everything is through the biblical lens, especially having to do with the Nephilim and the fallen. And we moved away from that for a little bit to visit some other things, and I think we're having a little bit of a renaissance right now, so this is right up our alley, but I really do want to come and bring this back full circle.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what everyone is going to say about this episode, what the fan base is going to say, because they're going to be like losing their shit through like half of it.
But this is the thing, a lot of people are going to give pushback. What do you mean dog-headed men and Canaanites? But there is so much precedence for that. I've listened to shows where there's just hours of deep dives on the lion-headed men of Moab or whatever it is, and the dog-headed men and all these different things, and that they were warriors and how it connects to what Anubis is and all of these things, and people. If this is shocking to you, you're going to be really shocked when you find out that there's a tremendous body of evidence that supports this, hours worth of content. And I'd love to revisit it in the future for sure.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus even talks about going, and there was like a mention in his writings talking about the dog-headed people when they got here, and that they I think it was Sir Francis Drake that maybe mentioned it as well or something. There's so many components to this. Like, absolutely, bring me on another show. We'll talk. I mean, because there's so many things we could talk about. Like, literally, we didn't even get into we kind of talk about demons, but like there's so much more to demonic stuff and authority over them and casting demons out that we could even go into.
It's kind of what
many more
I
things.
should have. Before you go, all right.
What is given me a subject? We should have been like, hey, let's stick it within this range.
This is fun though. I think it's a good primer, so people like.
That's what I think. Sometimes we just we introduce a guest to our audience, we lay a foundation, build a relationship, and then we come back and we just hammer something, whatever the next topic is going to be. So
like maybe some of our audience, like I don't know, I have like 40,000 on Twitter, and where there's like 4,000 on YouTube here and there. If they haven't seen you yet, they watch this episode. Now they're like, whoa, okay, this guy covers all this stuff. So we like to give the people just a chance to cover the field, spread the blanket. But before you go, what's an important thing that you do that you can tell the people listening when you're dealing with these kind of when you're dealing with a demonic oppression? Because this is kind of important in today's It's really important for the people listening in today's day and age. So what would you impart upon them?
Read your Bible. Try, read it, actually read it, and take it more literal than people think. Take it actually more literal than your church tells you. Don't believe your church. Your church is ran by demons. Most churches, I'd say 90% of them are ran by demons. And demons go to church. They love it. And they can say the name of Jesus, by the way, no problem. Demons, you really got to seek the Lord in your heart. He's speaking to you. He's speaking to everybody. It says he speaks once then twice, but man perceives it not. You got to recognize that little conviction inside of you that's saying, maybe I should get rid of that thing. Listen to it. Don't just go, oh yeah, whatever. If there's something in you that's telling you, hey, do this, honor me. He'll start giving you dreams, visions. He'll start speaking to you more clearly. You'll start understanding the truth. He'll give you revelation. And it's so much more spiritual. The Bible and the truth about Jesus is so much more spiritual than people realize. It's they water it down so much in church, and it's so sad and unfortunate, but it is
for
way
people
more spiritual.
That recoil at that notion. Look at your megachurch leaders. If that's not a thing, if that's not true, then what do we do with the Joel Osteens of the world? What's that dude, that little old guy that looks like a demon when he's talking about his private jet? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What's his name, Top?
Copeland, I think.
That's the little old guy, right? He literally looks like a man possessed. But if you hear that and you go, oh, what? The church is right. Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're literally talking about the people that. There we go. Thank you, Def Not Nephilim, Kenneth Copeland. Exactly.
They're asking what's the 10%? What's the church that's not demonic? And it's a fair question to ask, because a church is not necessarily a bad thing. I've had some bad experiences, but it's just run by people. It's and they're.
So here I'll answer it. So understand this. Even Kenneth Copeland is an example. The dude speaks, he used to speak a lot of truth, right? Before he became fully possessed to the extent that he's at now. But he did used to speak truth. He did used to teach the word of God properly. And there's probably a lot of good things that he's done. It doesn't mean that somebody's teaching wrong things or possessed means that they're evil. Okay. And demons don't possess you fully. They only possess parts of you. So like they may possess your bladder and you have like a bladder problem all the time. They may possess your, eyes and you just can't, like Kenneth Copeland. Like, they may possess a part of your brain. They may possess a part of your thinking. They may possess a part of your body. Like demons possess parts of people, not entire persons. Okay. And so when a demon possessed situation is occurring, like when a demon is starting to affect that person's, experience of life, we don't just write them off and be like, oh, they're evil. They're talking from demons. Like maybe they are. Maybe some of what they say is true. You got to really have the Holy Spirit to guide you. Like the church is full of demons. Yeah. But, at the same time, like the church is full of people and you're called to love people. And as a Christian, you're supposed to love people. So like I go to churches, I don't like to go to church, but I have a church that I go to, but I go to it not because I want to be there. I go to it because the Lord's like, go. And so like, I end up going there and end up praying for people all the time. It's not something that I really even like going to be completely honest. I go because the people are there and the people that are sick are there and the people that need help are there. Like, I don't go there to like feed myself. I feed myself because I read the Bible on my own. Like I research and pray with the Lord on my own. Like I go to church to literally help people. Like, and so like I go to church to like help the sick. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. Because those people that go there, where demons hang out? The two most favorite places for demons to hang out: churches and hospitals. Why do demons hang out at churches and hospitals? You got to ask yourself that, because that's where people are vulnerable. So, like if demons are hanging out at the churches, like you better be there. like you better be there to like help these people.
The front lines.
Yeah. So like, you go to church not for like, oh, what do I get out of it? Oh, I don't like this person. I don't like that person. Like, dude, let all that go. Like, see beyond it. You're in a spiritual battle. That person that you don't like, it's not them. There's a demonic thing attached to them. Pray for them. Pray for that person. Like that's what it says. Like you're supposed to love people. Like, and anybody that's teaching you not to love people, I'm going to tell you right now, don't listen to them. Like if they're teaching you not to love people, they're wrong. They're completely wrong. If they're demonizing people, that's wrong. Don't do that. Like don't demonize people. You're not supposed to do that. Hey, it says in the word, it says condemn not, lest you be condemned. Okay, so like you can judge righteously. You can say their actions are wrong. You can say what that person's doing is wrong, but you can't say that person is wrong. When you say that person is wrong, now you're condemning them. Okay, you can say what that person said was wrong. You can say what that person's doing is wrong, and they need to turn to the Lord. Okay, and they need to repent. Like even people like Kenneth Copeland, like his behavior is so wrong, and some of the things he says is wrong. But like he's still a human that the Lord loves, and so like he's still, even though he's demonized, he doesn't realize he's demonized probably, and so he's completely oblivious to it. He's probably completely entirely oblivious that he has a demon that's attached to him, or he's not, and he's sacrificing children, which is also a possibility. But like, who are we to judge? We don't have the evidence to say that otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, we have
he does some
physiognomy, and he looks like, I don't know if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, where
yes, I know what you're talking
Bilbo
about.
Baggins all of a sudden turns into like a demon for a second. He looks like that 24/7. But
yeah,
no, I understand what you're saying. I think this is an apt place to put a pin in it until next time, because we certainly want to have you back. There's so much left on the table to explore and to discuss. Number one, thank you for your time, 2.5 hours of your time. And number two, please, one more time, let everyone know where it is they can find your work.
Demon Erasers. I think it's right there. Demon Erasers. Just find me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow me on all the platforms because I post different stuff on each one of the platforms. Because TikTok, I'm not allowed to post certain stuff.
Is Ancient Angels is that on your YouTube page or okay?
Yeah,
it looks like
Ancient Angels is the movie I made. So I made Ancient Angels and I had JT be a part of it and stuff. So like it was all that's ancientangels.com.
Okay.
And if you just go to ancientangels.com, you guys can watch the documentary and support me if you like. That's the grows my channel and stuff that I do. Or if you guys are dealing with demonic stuff, you can go to Demon Erasers and just right there on the homepage, there's like a sign up form, and I think on the homepage you scroll down, and then I pray for people too. So
okay, great.
yeah, and everything I just try to do, I do it for free and just like help people. But my movie is kind of the only thing that there's like that you can pay for to support me. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome, dude. Thank you for spending the time with us. Thank you for talking with our audience. I'm excited to release this. So this will be released in a little while, but whatever. I'll tell you in a second. Guys, we're out of here. Peace out.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real. If you can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see, you got them. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger picture of what's happening. And they have.